Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock, and our first committee meeting of the day is the Planning and Economic Development Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, Connor, Bolden, Boyes, and Hannah. We do have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to move forward and call the Planning and Economic Development Committee to order. All members are present. We did host a meeting last week. If I can get approval of those minutes, please.
So moved. Second.
All in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, well, thank you. Before we move into our new agenda for the day, we do have one piece that we took time on last week that we had a public hearing on, and that is for our 2026 Consolidated Plan, Action Plan, and there's no questions or comments. We do have Helen Tomic here with us today, but if we don't have any questions or comments, I'd like to see if we can move forward with a favorable report. So committee members, any questions or comments or any other council members with us today? Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to follow up. I did a little research about the demolition budget, and I am somewhat still concerned about that number, particularly because it is so much lower than the $400,000. We are not guaranteed funds from year to year through the state by way of the land bank. We didn't get any last year, from my understanding. There's no guarantee that will happen again this year, and it takes several years to catch up when we do. Has there been any discussion about ways we can kind of maintain that budget? Because honestly, when you're talking about condemned houses that have been sitting for 5 or 6 years, these are not necessarily things that CDCs can take on.
Understood. So a couple comments. One, I think on Thursday, possibly Friday, Governor DeWine did announce awards for the demolition program, and the land bank was awarded $230,000 for 2026. That's the first thing. The second thing, the waiver demolition program is just a component of our demolition program. This program is where, as items are presented to the Housing Appeals Board, where residents sign off and have their houses torn down at the city's dime. We still do have our traditional demolition program where we continue demolishing properties, and those demolitions are assessed to the property owners with the expectation that they pay those funds back. That is not being impacted. The projects or houses that are torn down through the assessment program is not impacted by this at all. That will continue.
I see. So the Housing Appeal Board cases would continue?
That is correct.
I see.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Committee is comfortable moving forward. I would like a favorable report if possible.
Make a motion to suspend the rules, correct?
Just a favorable report.
Just a favorable
I don't
report,
have to
okay.
suspend the
Third
rules.
reading, okay.
Yeah.
Favorable report.
Yep.
Second.
And I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, well, thank you. Thank you, Helen, for answering the questions. I appreciate that. All right, moving on to our new, we don't have no more on our old agenda. We're going to continue taking time, and we'll move on into our new legislation. I'll ask Sarah, our clerk of council, if she could read in the first piece so we can just continue moving forward.
Item number 1 is an ordinance amending or supplementing Title 15, Chapter 153 Zoning Code, Article 1, General Provisions, Section 153.140 Definitions, Article 14, Conditional Uses, Section 153.464 Uses Permitted as Conditional Uses, and Section 153.476 Special Standards Applicable to Specific Conditional Uses of the Code of Ordinances, City of Akron, to define and specify conditional use development requirements for data centers and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. What we're going to do is schedule this for a public hearing for July 27th.
Item number 2 is an ordinance authorizing the Director of the Department of Planning and Urban Development to enter into a contract with East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation, EANDC, in Akron for the implementation of the Akron Down Payment Assistance Program and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah, and we do have Helen Tomic. She's going to start us off. Thanks.
Good afternoon, committee chair, committee members. In an effort to increase home ownership in the city of Akron, the city is sponsoring a first-time home buyer down payment assistance program. The city has set aside $300,000 of home investment partnership funds from the Department of Housing and Urban Development to assist in funding this program. We will be partnering with East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation to operate the program on our behalf. Some basic program requirements are we will be offering a deferred loan of up to $7,500. It will be forgiven over a 5-year period. 20% will be forgiven each year that the home buyer resides in the house. Having said that, per HUD rules, the home buyer must live in the house for the entirety of the 5-year affordability period. If they sell within 3 years, they would have to pay back 40% of the forgivable loan. They are also required to submit to attend an 8-hour homeownership program that is approved through HUD, and they must meet the HUD home income requirements. We're still finalizing some details. We are not accepting applications at this time. We hope to roll out the program within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And members of East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation are here as well to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Does one of them want to briefly speak, if it's possible, just somebody on behalf of everyone? I'd appreciate it.
Good afternoon. My name is Cynthia Bowles, and I'm the manager of the Center for Homeownership. My department at EANDC would be the department that would be most closely working with the recipients of the down payment assistance. We are prepared. We've been doing what we've been doing for over 20 years. You guys are probably pretty familiar with us. That $7,500 up to that amount would go a long way toward helping us fulfill our mission of affordable housing, being able to be a service for the community. Our team is prepared. We're ready to be able to help to administer the funds that are there, and we appreciate the fact that we would be aided with a stipend of right now agreed upon probably around $1,200 to be able to offer these services to the community. We're ready, we're prepared, we've been doing this for a while, and this gives us the opportunity to do what we do best.
Well, thank you, I appreciate that. Committee members, any questions or comments? Councilman Handa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I support this program 100%. I think it's a great program, and I've watched the program materialize, and there is a shortage of homes. And so what EANDC is doing is providing homes for low-income people and giving the homeowners an opportunity for generational wealth. So I'm behind this project 101%. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I do have Councilwoman Connor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo my Councilman Hanna's comments. EANDC does a great job with its residents, with its homeowner program. And for a lot of homeowners, that down payment is the piece that it is missing. So it's nice to see this happen. I'm grateful for the work, and thank you so much for EANDC in the cities.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Bolden.
I thank you, Chair. I think it is a great program. I think it's a great idea to do this and spread it out to the city. A couple questions. Are there income guidelines here?
There are income guidelines. We have to follow the Home Investment Partnership income guidelines.
Okay, so it's through
Yes.
that. Okay.
Correct.
I just didn't see it in here, and I'm looking to see where it was, and I guess it's probably written in its home.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the thing I wanted to make sure. Okay, thank you. I'm glad to see this, and I'm glad to see that we're not trying to take it on ourselves. I mean, for all of you especially, and trying to add that to your plate when we have someone that is an organization that has done this and is familiar with it, it makes perfect sense to pay for their services, absolutely.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate that. Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to echo my colleagues. Just have a favor to ask. When this initiative does get started, could council be alerted so that we can
Absolutely.
spread the word?
Absolutely, yes.
And are we working with the community development corporations and the neighborhoods to get that out as well?
Once we develop a finalize the program details, we can reach out to our CDCs as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I got Councilman Greer, and then I have Councilwoman Omobian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to also thank the Planning Department and EANDC. This is a very important program, and EANDC and its leadership have been doing really impactful work, not only in the East Akron neighborhood, but throughout our city. And so really our thanks to all of you for making this a reality.
Thank you. I appreciate the comments. Councilwoman Omobian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks to the mayor and his cabinet for doing this program. Just have a couple questions if the lady from EANDC could answer them. I know we talked about income guidelines, and I talked with Helen earlier. Individuals need to have the credit score and all those kinds of things. I'm just curious, when people don't meet all the requirements, do you work with them to help them become eligible? And you have a window of time that you can use to do that?
Good question. Yes, we do on a daily basis. What we're doing right now is working with clients in that circumstances. When we meet them, we don't know exactly where they are. We go through the process of evaluating and counseling. So if they are not where they need to be at the 620, and there's also a deposit, a responsibility for them to put some funds in also, so they have to build that too. So if they're not where they're at, we do have established counseling services to help them get where they're at.
Very, very good. So I echo everything that the other council members have said, and thank you very much for doing this, mayor and cabinet as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. All right. Not seeing anyone else that have any comments. Helen, what were you looking at for this? I do see Councilman Eric Garrett.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate you recognizing me here. I just want to also thank ENDC for what they do in the community. I know this is one part, but when you have phenomenal individuals like Ms. Holly, who works there, who's always there to answer the calls, who's helping the residents, Ms. Holly goes above and beyond. I was pleasantly surprised to see a young worker who I've had the pleasure of working with, Mr. Eddie, for years. Now I see that he's part of their replacement program. I think he goes out and does filters and things of that nature. You guys have a beautiful bunch of folks that you're working with over there. So I just wanted to thank you guys for what you do and echo my colleagues as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate that. Actually, I'm going to see if the committee is looking at a favorable report with suspension of the rules, since we did have Councilwoman Linda Mobian make a comment about trying to pass this as mayor and council as a whole. So I'll leave it up to the committee if they find that suitable.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
So I have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. We'll suspend the rules this evening on that. Moving on to our third item on the agenda, Sarah.
Item number 3 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to file applications and to enter into agreements for funding of certain capital improvements under the Ohio Public Works Commission's Local Transportation Improvement Program and the State Capital Improvements Program, committing city funds for the local share of these improvements and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. And I see we have Jim Ashley with us today. Please, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the annual state infrastructure grant program that we've utilized since 1989. LTIP is Local Transportation Improvement Program. That's for road projects. SKIP is the State Capital Improvement Program. That's for roads, water, and sewer projects. We're submitting 4 applications totaling $7.5 million of SKIP and LTIP money, 3 road projects, and 1 water line project. The concrete street programs, the annual program the city does, this is phase 6 of that. It's full depth patch and match replacement to extend the useful life. The second road project is Diagonal Road concrete replacement. We're replacing that with asphalt from Frederick to Hawkins. Third project is Independence Avenue, which will be full-depth asphalt replacement of the concrete road from Home to Britain. And the final project is the Water Main Replacement Program 2027, which is going to replace 6-inch to 12-inch water mains throughout the city. We anticipate funding announcements in March of 2027, and construction cannot begin before July 1st, 2027.
All right, well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. Let's see if we have any questions or comments for you. Committee members, any questions or comments for Mr. Ashley or any other council members with us today? Okay, is consent okay, Jim?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Motion for consent.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for consent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. We'll put that on the consent agenda. And moving on to number 4, please.
Item number 4 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an agreement with Bounce Innovation Hub to support Bounce as a presenting partner for 2026 and 2027 in order to provide small business assistance and programs for businesses located in Akron and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. And we have Sean Volman with us today. Sean?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of council and the committee. This legislation authorizes the mayor to enter into agreement with Bounce for 2 years, in addition to allowing Bounce to continue its mission of assisting city entrepreneurs and small businesses. The city will continue to receive presenting partner benefits, including co-working memberships, use of meeting and event space, branding, and invitations to networking events. The agreement also documents Bounce's continued support of the city's Together for Akron strategic plan, including its work on the Synthesis Materials Accelerator and the Polymer Industry Cluster. We have the CEO of Bounce, Jessica Sublett, here, who I provided you some materials and also has a few words to say.
Sure. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you for your time, Chair Kamer and the committee members. We are proud to be a close partner with the City of Akron for many years, supporting economic development. Since our launch in 2018, organization has helped to create and retain over 1,000 jobs in Northeast Ohio. Last year alone, we served 460 entrepreneurs and are on track to serve well over that, having served 254 this year. We support many of the city's priorities, including providing accessible programming to entrepreneurs from all backgrounds. One way we do that is through our Beyond Startup Workshop series. So every other week, we offer a workshop. It's $5. It's open to all entrepreneurs, varying topics that can help entrepreneurs from bookkeeping to speaking with presence when they're in intimidating situations. And so we served 161 entrepreneurs through that program last year, of which over 30% were Black entrepreneurs. We also are a core partner in the city's Elevate Greater Akron strategic plan. So we lead the Spark initiative, which is the entrepreneurial support initiative where we bring together over 24 entrepreneurial support organizations and partners, including the Black Chamber, Akron Urban League, Western Reserve Community Fund, and many of our CDC partners. Right now, we're leading an initiative to map out a better and more accessible map for entrepreneurs to navigate all these resources. And so based on stage, where to go, who to go to, and who has the right services. So that's something that we hope to roll out by the end of the year. As Sean mentioned, we are also close partners with the Polymer Industry Cluster and the National Science Foundation Regional Innovation Engine, if you saw the news last week. So we are the leading entrepreneurial or startup support program in both of those with our Synthesis Materials Accelerator. So we're very excited about that. In addition, we do offer a lot of high growth potential technology startup programming. That has been the core of our work. It is the majority of our funding. So we do support software and med tech companies. Harmony Solutions is one of those that was featured in the recent Wall Street Journal article that talked about how great Akron's resurgence is and the attracting population back to the region. So Harmony, which is located in our building, has attracted people from out of state and are growing their company here. And so last year, companies in those technology programs raised over $43 million in third-party capital, one of which raised $10 million, and that one is located in Akron. I can't say who it is, but that is a very exciting number to know that a quarter of that came from downtown Akron. $47 million earned in revenue, 21 of that paid out in payroll, and over 290 jobs. In addition, we do can think of ourselves as stewards of the 300,000 square foot building that we operate, and so we are at about 81% occupancy in the incubator. We have about 90 companies that reside between floors 1 and 2, which is co-working, and 3 through 9, which is the incubator space. So we are very grateful to be partners and appreciate the consideration of the support, and I'm happy to answer questions.
All right, thank you, Jessica. So we'll see if we have any, you got anything to add, or are you okay for now? Good?
I think she did great.
Yeah, it was great. Let's see if we have any questions or comments. Any questions or comments? Councilman Hanna, I'll let you start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I heard you say that there was 30% minorities.
Yes. In our Beyond Startup Workshop series, actually over 30% were actually Black entrepreneurs, and then there were additional other minority entrepreneurs served.
Are there any efforts to increase that number or that percentage?
Yes, so we are often working our best within ourselves and our partners to reach all members of the community and work to increase those numbers, particularly when it comes to accessible programming, and partner with our CDCs who have, I would say, very deep contact with our neighborhood businesses.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other committee members first? Okay, I'll go to Councilwoman Amobian, then Councilman Greer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Jessica, those numbers are sounding much, much better, and I thank you so much for that. Just curious, I read about the $160 million with this polymer partnership program, and there's something to do with Akron Public Schools. Do you guys do anything with Akron Public Schools, initiatives to make students aware of different opportunities?
Yes, so not directly related to that initiative, but yes, we have a partnership with Akron Public Schools where we bring in the students, depending on various classrooms, whether they're entrepreneurship focused or sometimes marketing focused, to make sure they're aware that, one, entrepreneurship is a viable career option, and so that is something we should encourage, and then two, that they know that something, we'll brag about it, as cool as Bounce is actually in our community, and that we should take advantage of it, and that it is a place where they're welcome to meet other professionals in the community.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Greer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Bounce Innovation Hub and Jessica and her team. The work that they have been doing for a long time here in our area has been truly transformational in the region. And I know that Steve of the Greater Akron Chamber is also on the call, and with the news last week of the Neo Smart and the $160 million coming in, both of their organizations, along with the 70 that are in that partnership, were really instrumental in making that happen. And again, just a huge thanks to Bounce Innovation Hub, the Chamber, and all of the organizations that are bringing in such a significant investment.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Well, thank you for coming down. I appreciate the work you do. And Sean, is consent okay?
Consent would be great.
Okay. Committee?
Second.
All in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. We'll move on to we'll put that on the consent agenda, and we'll move on to the next piece. Sarah, please.
Item number 5 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts with the Greater Akron Chamber of Commerce to provide economic and neighborhood development, marketing, and promotional services for the purposes of job creation, investment, retention, and expansion of existing companies within the city of Akron and declaring an emergency.
All right, Sean, I'll come back to you to start with.
And this is a piece we come with annually. It's the authorizes the mayor to enter into the agreement with the Greater Akron Chamber of Commerce for 2026. Under the agreement, the chamber will provide economic and neighborhood development, marketing, and promotional services on the city's behalf, including business retention and expansion, outreach, the Greater Akron Business Navigator, coordination of international attraction activities, and support for the Downtown Akron Development Corporation, and is, of course, leadership of the regional efforts to grow the polymer industry cluster. In chambers today, we have Alyssa Carpenter, who is the Vice President of Economic Development for the Greater Akron Chamber, and online we have Steve Millard, who is the President of the Greater Akron Chamber, who would like to say a few words.
Sure. We'll start with Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you allowing me to participate virtually today. I'm out of town, but I was excited to be able to come and talk about some of the things that we're working on right now. I will keep it brief, but as Mr. Volman said, we work very closely with the city and a number of other partners through the Elevate Greater Akron initiative to help drive economic development activity and really support and facilitate. It is really a team effort across all of our partners. And I don't think there's a day that goes by that we are not interacting in some way on the work that we're trying to do to support our businesses and support community growth and investment. We've got more than 800 of our members of our 2,800 are City of Akron companies. And beyond just the members that we support companies in lots of ways that are not members of the organization that are just trying to do things to drive their growth and success in the region. Over the last, say, year and a half or so, we have seen some good success in different areas on our business retention and expansion work, again, that we do with many partners. We had 14 project wins within the city of Akron, 184 new jobs created, about 187 million in capital investment, about 16 million in new payroll, and 8 of the projects that we did were Jobs Ohio small business grants, really helping some of our smaller companies take a step. These are $50,000 grants that help those companies, grow, add people, et cetera. About of the 22 economic development projects secured in Summit County during that period, about 14 were located in Akron. So about 63% of our wins were in the city of Akron. On the BRE side, we do visits, as you all know. We coordinate those with the mayor and his team and others across the community. We did about 234 visits with companies. About 138 of those were with Akron businesses, and about 60% of that activity was focused on Akron companies. We also did about 105 of those visits were conducted with minority and women-owned businesses in 25 and 47 in 2026 so far. So we try to cast a broad net to understand business conditions and understand how we can help and support companies. We have a resource that Sublet had referred to called the Greater Akron Business Navigator, which helps connect the dots for companies to resources in the region. We've had more than 100,000 users of that online tool over the last 18 months. And we continue to grow the resources that are available for companies so they can find out where they can get help and support, help to manage referrals there and connect the dots. And so a lot of that is about highlighting the more than 200 programs and resources in the region here from lots of different organizations, from the Urban League to the Small Business Development Center to Bounce to the Chamber to others, to make sure we're connecting the dots on help and support. We've added a new AI front end to that because everybody's doing everything in AI these days. So we wanted to make sure that we are making it easier again for people to access help and resources. And we get very good feedback from folks that we visit with a net promoter score of over 87, saying that people would recommend those visits to others and they're getting value and support from them. A big area of focus, of collaborative focus for us as well, is on sites. Sites are sort of the underlying thing that you need to have to be able to win projects. And so we've got 4 sites that we're doing some really significant work on within the city of Akron to do environmental due diligence, geotechnical analysis, evaluating the infrastructure and doing planning for those sites. If you don't have a site, you can't win a project. And so the big investments that have to be made right now are how we make sure that when somebody comes looking to make an investment in the region, we are ready with both the information and potentially the site itself ready to go for a project. So that's a collaborative piece of work that we're doing with the city, the county, GIR Foundation, a number of others to make sure that we can be ready in that space. Our Akron USA program continues to evolve. We're working closely with partners across the region to make sure that internationally we're putting a good face on the region. And we're getting a lot of looks because of the work we're doing in the polymer industry cluster from companies. We have created some standard Akron USA presentation materials, upgraded those, and again, are out there getting the message about the region in a collaborative way for our opportunities here. We will be at the Fakuma show. We were at the K show in Germany last year. We brought back a number of leads, and we'll be at Fakuma this year with our partners, again, to sort of help people understand the cool things that are happening here in Greater Akron and why it's a place they want to put their business. As you may know, Team NEO is the Jobs Ohio partner for Northeast Ohio, and we work very closely with them and really are trying to increase attraction activities. And so we have engaged some new resources to do more lead generation in that process and partnering closely with some additional resources in that space as well. We want to have more consistent outreach for those leads to create more value for the region overall. Beyond the work that we're doing in the BRE space, as you all know, and we appreciate your support for the Lincoln Mill Redevelopment District that was established recently. You may have noticed if you've been by that area lately that the Lincoln building has now come down. We expect groundbreaking in October for the new pilot polymer facility and having that commissioned and in use in about a year from then. We're starting to build a queue of projects among industry players for beginning to use the facility, so we're excited about the opportunity that creates. Ms. Sublett talked about the Synthesis Accelerator. They've been a great partner with Bounce to help with those early stage companies developing new technologies in the space. And we just have a new round of applications coming in for both Synthesis and R&D support. The interesting thing is we've seen an increase in those applications for this, our second year of the program, but about 21 of those 60 or so applications came from out of state, which represents people understanding what we're doing here in this region and wanting to be here to do that work. And that gives us an opportunity for some new entrants to our market here. And as Jessica mentioned as well, the NeoSmart win announced last week brings resources to the region. About $1 million of resources. And in the next 2 years, about 15 million of that 160 will sort of move from the federal government to NeoSmart. About $1 million of that is going to be invested in organizations like University of Akron Research Foundation, the Akron Urban League, Bounce, and a few others to provide services and resources in that space of technology development. On the workforce side, our Good Jobs Challenge is focused on helping people get into the polymer industry as an opportunity for their career. Our goal is to put 400 people to work in that industry over the next several years. We've been up and running with that for about 7 months or so, but 133 participants in that training so far of our 500 goal, and 35 of those folks are Akron residents. And so that's a nice new opportunity to really connect people with opportunities in that region. We have a new partnership with Akron Public Schools that will go live in the fall with Garfield. We will be a named Academy partner in the areas of advanced manufacturing, construction, patient care, culinary arts, and we're finding ways to bring more companies into that work to connect with students. And we recently initiated something around polymer pathways at Mayor Malik. Under Mayor Malik's leadership, we've created a new way to get students a credential and are designing that program now so that they can go from high school and have the ability to interview for and potentially end up in the industry in good jobs in that space. Finally, we're helping to support in a lot of other areas like the work on the 0 to 5 early learning initiative, the provider, the child care provider, business accelerator program, and a few other things. Again, collaborating with many partners to really bring energy to the work that we're trying to do on behalf of investment and growth in the community. So I'll stop there, but I'm happy to take any questions. But really, again, appreciate the support of the city, the partnership with the city. I think we're working very well with the administration and with many partners to do what we have to do to make this a place people want to invest and find opportunity.
Thank you. I appreciate that presentation. We'll see if committee members have any questions or comments for either one. Yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the exhaustive explanation. I was very pleased to see that neighborhood development and marketing promotional services were on the description of this particular piece of legislation. I know that opportunity zones are a big thing right now. We're submitting them right now. I know the city is as we speak. I know a lot of those opportunity zones are located in neighborhoods, and I know we've had a difficult time getting traction regarding those particular sites or areas in neighborhoods. Does the chamber have a plan to assist with that? How do you plug into that neighborhood part of things?
I think in our region, as we've been reviewing those zones, the city has really been a key leading partner in identifying them. We are supportive of the zones that they've identified, and we'll work very collaboratively to help drive things there. One of the difficulties with the opportunity zone designations is that the process of understanding who has money to invest and where they want to invest, it's very private. And so as folks are looking for those opportunities and highlighting those opportunities, like last time, you may recall, we did like packages for all the different opportunity zone areas to try to promote them. But the program is a hard one to get your hands around where people are investing because it's private investor decisions largely with their accountants and their financial advisors. But we want to support, I think the places that the city has identified are good places that we want to make sure people are aware of. So we're willing to do whatever we can to help promote and make sure that they get some investment.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Anyone else with us? Councilwoman Omobian?
Again, thank you, Mr. Chair. Steve, a couple of questions. You mentioned something about the childcare industry, and I know we've been doing a pilot program with that. Can you tell me how you're working with that? That's one question. The other question, I kind of heard that Akron is one of the leading cities that's attracting businesses. If that's true, tell me what you know about that. And the third question I have is about these data centers. I think we need to have a more balanced report about these data centers. I know we have, according to what I researched, there are 7 in Summit County and we have 5 in Akron. In Volta, I know started a long time ago when I was over the economic development. And I know the name has changed, but they were a big player at the time they came here. But that's been 10 years or so ago when they came. But if you can remember my 3 questions, those are the 3 I would like for you to address, please. Thank you.
Sure. Let me start first of all with I should have been writing them down, and I apologize. But as we think about the work that we're doing in terms of projects, we keep track of the projects that sort of hit. We keep track of where they are, and so as I said, 14 of the 22 projects that we've gotten in Summit County have been for Akron-based companies. And so part of that is just the nature of the organizations that are coming for help and assistance, and based on the BRE work we do, and we do the outreach, the opportunities we identify. So we work really hard to make sure that we can facilitate companies through those projects. So I think in Summit County is the second most successful county, if you will, in Northeast Ohio after Cuyahoga for attracting those projects and investment. And so we've had some really big, projects announced, like the GPD project, and you have some smaller projects announced that are some of them are a little more under the radar, but we're really trying to look to find wins to leverage both what we're doing in polymers and other kind of opportunities downtown and around. So I think we're getting results from the work. There's always more to do, but I think that the outreach that we're doing as a team has been effective in that regard. The second question the question you asked about data centers, and I'm going to need help with the third question, but the data center question, a couple of thoughts. I was an advocate for the city to not sort of do a moratorium around data centers, because I think what we're seeing across the country, and I'm actually with other chamber execs across the country here this week, and a lot of data center conversation is happening. And what we're finding is that when you put those stop signs up in communities, it hurts. It takes a long time to recover from it. That's not to say, though, that we believe that communities shouldn't be demanding investments by these organizations that are investing in community. To me, what I'm sort of seeing right now, the current focus is that to the extent that you're willing to work with data centers to sort of have them both meet the conditions that your city wants to see met, they're willing to make investments because they're about speed right now. So I think it's an opportunity for communities that are willing to work with them to have them established under conditions that make sense for the community to win. I think those folks who are shutting the door are missing out on opportunities. And there's a lot of concerns about lots of elements of this. But I think these are happening. They are 21st plus century infrastructure that we need to have to be successful to compete. And we got to find ways that they both can be established here, but also meet the needs that we have in our community for them to contribute to our community, create jobs, and invest in ways that, remediate some of the impact they can have. Your third question, I apologize.
It was about childcare.
Childcare, yeah. So our Elevate Greater Akron initiative is working very closely with the broad folks on this. Where we're trying to bring help to it is to support some of those home-based providers and smaller providers with business assistance services, help them connect with the resources they need around that space. We're talking about how can we help them think about providing benefits to some of their employees? How can we help them think about ways to retain employees? The problem that we believe we have with childcare isn't necessarily the number of seats. It's the stability of the providers in that system and their ability to retain their staff, to hire people that they need, and to have things like one small example. When a provider calls in sick, you might lose the ability to run your center because your ratios will be off. How do you provide a substitute provider pool to make that happen? And so there are players in the United Way, the Early Childhood Resource Center, and others involved that are doing a lot of work. But our focus there is really on how do we help strengthen their businesses as businesses who are trying to deliver these services to people.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Moving forward, consent okay, Sean?
That would be great.
Thanks. Committee?
Motion for consent?
I have a motion.
Second.
Second. All in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate that opportunity. Moving on to number 6, Sarah, please.
Item number 6 is an ordinance approving the petition for approval of the City of Akron Highland Square Special Improvement District Incorporated Services Plan 2026 to 2029, authorizing and/or ratifying execution by the mayor of the City of Akron of the petition for approval of the City of Akron Highland Square Special Improvement District Incorporated's Services Plan 2026 to 2029, adopting the City of Akron Highland Square Special Improvement District Incorporated's Services Plan 2026 to 2029, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. All right, Sean Volman.
Hello again. Earlier this year, City Council passed Resolution 38-2026, forming the Highland Square Special Improvement District. As those of you who have been around for some time know, SIDs and assessments and the like take multiple pieces of legislation. There will be 4 total for the Highland Square SID, and this is the second and third piece that we intend to bring. This first piece today approves the assessment petition that was submitted by the SID. It authorizes and ratifies the mayor's execution of that petition, and it formally adopts the SID's services plan. The petition carries the signatures from property owners representing more than 60% of the front footage within the SID, which satisfies any statutory thresholds. This project and the legislation are property owner-driven and designed to enhance safety, security, and beautification along the Highland Square corridor without substantially drawing on city personnel and tax resources.
All right, well, thank you. I appreciate that.
If I could say one more thing.
Okay.
We do have, I saw him come on in. I don't think he needs to make any presentation, but Abraham Neighbors with the mustard seed, who is the president of the Highland Square SID, is here as well.
Okay, no, thank you for recognizing him, and if anyone has any questions, he's right out there. All right, so we'll take questions from committee members. Any questions or comments for Sean Volman? Oh, I see Councilwoman Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to recognize the effort that went into something like this. Our area had considered approaching something like this, but it's the property owner-driven part of things that is so important. 60% of the frontage owned there has to be approved by the property owners who are being assessed to put funds into this. A lot of property owners, at least in my area, that's a heavy lift for them. So I just want to congratulate those who worked really hard to bring people along that see the benefits in this that are already starting to happen, and just want to thank you.
Yeah, it was a big team effort on our side, and Councilperson Wilson has been a great member of that team as well.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for the comments. And Councilwoman, please.
I will just echo Councilwoman Boyce. It is a great effort, and kudos to those property owners who stood up and are, yes, spending a little money, but it will be well worth it in the end to keep Highland Square what they need it to be.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't see any other questions or, oh, hold on. No, I don't want to ask for a vote yet. Go ahead.
That's okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. This has been a long time in the making, and it's something, as I've spoken with Councilperson Wilson a number of times, and I keep saying we need to stabilize this area. We need to make sure it's safe for not just the people in Highland Square, but everybody in the city. And it's always been an important part of Akron, is Highland Square and the business district there. And it's good to see we're looking things to finding a way to make this the special incentive district, so that'll be take care of the issues, and hopefully we'll take care of some of the issues and get a good start on this. I, again, applaud the effort and the work that was put in by everyone involved.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate that. Councilman Lombardo, please.
Thank you. So I see the method of assessment here, which is the property owner's front footage divided by the total footage of everything times the annual budget amount. And then, you know, I see, of course, all the properties listed. It seems to me that, I was just wondering, has any thought been put into the weight of this assessment being put on properties that caused the problem. You know, I know you have to, I'm looking at, the property that's mostly caused the problem, that has the smallest front footage, so it just doesn't seem like they would be paying hardly anything towards this safety feature.
So I guess I would say two things on that. One is the owner of that property did sign the petition, which I think is wonderful. Second is the Ohio Revised Code only provides two methods by which to assess. One is by front footage, and the other is the value of the properties. Same thing, not front footage, but what the properties are valued at, and the same type of percentage. So that is not a method that is allowed to be used.
And if I may also, so this is also, Mr. Bolden mentioned that we've been trying to have this conversation for a long time. Actually, Rich tried to do this a long time ago. Nancy's had a hand in it, Sam had a hand in it, so I'm carrying the torch from a couple council people. But what we've learned over all these conversations over the last decade is that everybody in the district has been affected in some sort of way, economically or physically, business-wise. So it really is touching every single part. So just something to highlight as well.
Okay. So is it the majority of these business owners? I mean, well, if we pass it, it has to affect all the property owners. Like one can't, say, look, I'm 8 to 5. I'm not causing these problems. But I hear what you're saying, Sean.
If I may, that is directly affected by the next piece of legislation, so we can discuss what happens next with that, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. No, thank you, Councilman. I appreciate that. All right. Anyone else with us? Okay. I would like to. The administration worked really hard. Sean Volman, thank you to you and Susie and everybody else that's been involved. If I don't throw their name out, and obviously the council person, Fran Wilson, I know he's been really involved with this, and I would like to respectfully ask the committee for suspension of the rules if possible.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we'll suspend the rules on that one. Thank you. And moving on to the next piece is kind of similar to this, but we'll get into that. Sarah, if you could read that in.
Item number 7 is a resolution declaring it necessary to levy assessments for public improvements and public services for the City of Akron Highland Square Special Improvement District, otherwise known as the Highland Square SID, in accordance with the previously read-in ordinance, which approved the City of Akron Highland Square Special Improvement District Incorporated Services Plan 2026 to 2029, all when and where necessary, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Now, Sean Volman.
Yes. So as with any assessment, the first step is for council to pass a resolution of necessity declaring the project, the improvements to be necessary. And these assessments, as Councilman Lombardo mentioned, are calculated on a frontage basis, each property share of West Market Street frontage relative to the district's total to raise sufficient funds to fund the annual budget of $100,000. When passed, the city council clerk will send notices of that passage to each and every property owner in the SID, and as with any assessment, property owners have the opportunity to object, and in which case we'll impanel an assessment equalization board, and they will have a hearing. They can have a hearing in front of that board, which can determine whether or not that property owner is benefited from the assessment. So that would be hopefully over your break. That will happen if there is an objection.
All right. Thank you, Sean. Questions or comments in regards to this piece? Okay. Don't see any. All right. We're all good. Okay. So I'm going to respectfully ask if the committee will make a favorable report on this with suspension of the rules.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. We'll pass that this evening, too.
Thank you very much, and I'm gonna let you be now.
Oh, you sure? I got one piece left. You know?
I think that might be Ms. Tomic. I don't know if she's still here or not.
It is Helen. So thank you, Sean.
thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson Wilson. All right, Sarah, read in that final piece.
Item number 8 is an ordinance authorizing the Director of the Department of Planning and Urban Development to enter into a contract or contracts with nonprofit organizations for the provision of tenant-based rental assistance to carry out the intent and purpose of the Home American Rescue Plan, otherwise known as Home-ARP and Home Investment Partnership Funds, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Sarah. And Helen Tomic again.
Good afternoon, community chair, community members. I wanted to introduce this piece of legislation. The planning department issued a request for proposals for tenant-based rental assistance in the amount of $565,000. We received 4 applications. After review of those applications, we've determined that all 4 agencies are eligible. These funds would provide rental assistance to families or individuals who are houseless and/or at risk of houselessness. We are utilizing $250,000 of home ARPA funds, which was released by the Department of Housing and Urban Development in 2021, and we're also utilizing traditional home investment partnership funds as well. That's in the amount of $315,000.
All right, thank you, Helen. I appreciate that. Committee members, any questions or comments for Helen Tomic? Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you told us about the 4 agencies. Could you tell us which agencies that, again?
I don't have that list with me, but I believe it is the United Way. We're also looking at partnering with Harmony House, Community AIDS Collaborative, and do you have that list? I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank. Family Promise.
Say it again.
Yes. Family Promise. I apologize.
All right, thank you, Councilman. I appreciate those questions, or that question. Anyone else with us today? Okay. Is consent okay for this
That's
one?
fine.
Okay. Committee?
Motion for consent.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for consent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we'll put that on the consent agenda. Well, thank you, everyone, for your patience and participating, and thank you to Sarah for reading those in. So with that, we are adjourned.
Our next committee today will be the Public Service, Public Utilities, and Green Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Those committee members are Kamer, McKittrick, Wilson, Bolden, and Lombardo. Again, that's the Public Service, Public Utilities, and Green Committee, and it will begin at 2 o'clock. Thank you. It's 2 o'clock, and our next committee meeting of the day is the Public Service, Public Utilities, and Green Committee. Those committee members are Kamer, McKittrick, Wilson, Bolden, and Lombardo. We do have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate the opportunity. We are going to call the Public Service and Public Utilities and Green Committee to order. We did host a meeting last week. Can I get approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, well, thank you. We do have 4 new pieces in front of us today. Our first piece is an ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee after publicly advertising for bids or requesting and receiving a request for qualifications to enter into a contract or contracts for professional engineering services for the Akron downtown water infrastructure replacement master plan and declare an emergency. We have our very own service director with us, Chris Luddle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. For the last several years, a few years anyway, we have looked at critical infrastructure, and one of those critical assets that we own is our water mains, and we're looking at the downtown corridor. So this legislation will allow us to advertise and then enter into a contract with a design engineering firm to come up with a master plan. And what we will task them with is looking at all our water infrastructure. They'll use our data for the history of break history on these water mains. But what the master plan will allow us to do is identify the probability of failure, the consequence of failure, and obviously the risk of each asset. So everybody remembers what happened this spring when we lost a piece of old water main near Akron General Cleveland Clinic. That is a critical customer, obviously. You know, our downtown hospitals, our Akron AES, Akron Energy Systems that produces all the steam. Those are the things that we're going to be looking at. Okay, how can we isolate what needs replaced first? How do you add or maybe replace an existing, whether it's a hydrant or it's a valve, to isolate these, and how can we backfeed around? So we've been talking about this, like I said, to be more proactive, and this legislation will allow us to advertise, and then once we get those proposals, enter into an agreement. This is probably a couple-year process, and then how do we go about budgeting to replace some of these critical mains?
All right, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Committee members, any questions or comments for Chris Luddle or any other council members with us? Oh, I don't see any. Okay. Consent okay?
Yes, sir.
Motion for consent.
Second.
All in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, moving on to the next piece is the ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Barrington Pumps and Systems Incorporated for the purchase of a replacement fiberglass tank for the water reclamation facility and declare an emergency. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Yes, this legislation will allow us to purchase a new sodium hypochlorite tank. A lot of times you just call that bleach, but that is the last process at the wastewater plant before we discharge the river. So this tank sits on the northern western point of the plant, and this is the final treatment of our influent before we discharge the river. What we did, we went out to the supplier of our sodium hypochlorite, and we asked them, this particular tank that we own, who are the reps that sells the tank? So we went and got prices from 2 different tank suppliers or manufacturers that sell these, and they were both within $1,000. So the 2 prices we got, and the reason why we wanted this particular tank is they still sell this exact tank with exact size, exact fittings, so it'll be, we can take one out of service, remove it, drop the new one in, and replumb it. Now, our permit requires us to disinfect or in our plant any discharges through the month of October currently, which we are looking to maybe extend that time. So this is something that we would like to order, and then once that time in October passes, we can take that tank out of service, drop the new one in, and be ready for April when we start the new process. So with that, sir, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Chris. Questions or comments? Fran Wilson?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Little, does this have any relation to the 2 sodium hypochlorite tanks that were involved in the June incident, or is that at a different facility?
That's at the water plant.
The water plant?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So the incident with the other 2 tanks was that Franklin?
New Franklin.
New Franklin?
Yep,
Okay.
up in Franklin Township where our water plant was.
Okay.
Yes.
2 different things.
2 different things.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilperson. Any other questions or comments? Suspension of the rules?
If we could on this one, so we can get it ordered and have it on hand when we get ready to install
Okay.
it.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
I have a motion to suspend the rules and a second. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we'll suspend the rules on that one, Chris. Next piece is authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee to enter into contractor contracts after publicly advertising for bids for the construction to improve and upgrade the water main at the water plant and declare an emergency. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this piece of legislation will allow us to upgrade the existing potable water system throughout the water plant. We did talk about this in the capital budget. What we're proposing to do is run a new 12-inch main to tie into the North Summit supply off the plant. That will improve not only circulation through the plant, but will give us more redundancy through the plant. Long story short, now we'll be able to loop it. So if we lose a piece of this main in the plant, we could shut one valve off and still get water fed from another part of the plant. We use this water not only for our bathrooms, our showers, our potable water for our employees, we also use this water for our processes. So some of our chemicals come in and we have to mix a certain amount of water with the chemical. So this also feeds our systems that we treat our raw water with every day.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments for Chris Little? I don't see any. Is consent okay?
Yes, sir.
Motion for consent.
Second.
All in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, cool. Moving on to our final piece for this committee. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to file applications to enter into an agreement or agreements with the water supply revolving loan account with the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency and with the Ohio Water Department Authority for construction of the water plant main upgrade project and declare an emergency. Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of committee. Yes, this is a loan application, so this legislation will allow us to apply, and if awarded, accept these loan funds. It's a 30-year loan. What this particular piece of legislation is directly in relationship to the previous piece. So the previous piece, we talked about putting in a new water main to loop. This will help pay for that. So it's a 30-year loan, OWDA, and right now WSRLA loans. The term right now is 3.57% for a 30-year loan. So this is not only a construction loan, it also helps pay for the design and inspection of this water main.
All right. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Committee members, any questions or comments? Any other council members with us? Okay, is consent okay?
Yes, sir.
Motion for consent.
Second.
All in favor of consent, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, thank you. Before we adjourn, I just want to say I stopped down to the Blue Heron Festival over the weekend. Chris saw me, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that helps organize that. It was pretty impressive, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thanks for coming down. Thanks for everybody that came down. Yeah, our staff did a fantastic job. You know, Thursday and Friday it was kind of iffy. We're going to have to cancel, you know, because of the air quality and things look like with the weather. They were going to clear out, thank goodness. So we had about 160 runners register. We started that last year, and it brings kind of a new crowd or new people to the event, which was very impressive. So we did a 1 mile run, we did a 5K, and we did a 10K. So personally, I finished first in my age group for the 1 mile, but I was the only person in my age group. So, you know, I couldn't finish. I did finish though. So I thank everybody for coming down. Thank you so much. And our employees worked very hard, and it was a nice event.
Yeah, and I'm really impressed with the tunnel. Yeah. That's my first time seeing that since the boring machine. So I was really impressed. So thank you. All right, with that, we're adjourned.
Our next committee today will be the Public Safety Committee, and it will begin at 2:15. Those committee members are McKittrick, Kamer, Lombardo, Hannah, and Garrett. Again, that's the Public Safety Committee, and it will begin at 2:15. Thank you. It's 2:15, and our next committee meeting of the day is the Public Safety Committee. Those committee members are McKittrick, Kamer, Lombardo, Hannah, and Garrett. We have all committee members present except for Councilman Hannah. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Viviano. I'd like to call Public Safety to order. We have previous minutes to approve. If I could get a motion and a second.
Motion to approve previous meeting minutes.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, we have a few pieces that come before us today. The first piece is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee, if awarded, to accept and expend the Bureau of Justice Assistance FY 2025 JAG grant for the purchase of essential equipment for use in the police department offices and at crime scenes and declaring an emergency. Captain Miles.
Thank you, sir. Yes, this is the 2025 JAG grant. It is a 48-month grant, and we are requested funds of just under $175,000. This equipment, again, will be for crime scene processing and investigations to include copiers, crime scene scanners, and binoculars. And in addition to that, adding bikes to our bicycle unit and repair parts for our speed trailers.
Okay, very good. Any questions from any committee members or any, Councilman Lombardo?
You said it was for 48 months?
Yes, sir. 48 months.
Do we get the money all at once or just spread out over?
That'll be once this is a formula grant, so once that money's spent, we're going to reimburse for that.
Oh, I got you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from any council members or committee members? What's your pleasure, sir?
Suspension, please, due to this being awarded fairly soon, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make that motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We'll get that out this evening before council. Our next piece to come before us is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee, if awarded, to accept and expend the Officer of Criminal Justice Services 2026 Ohio Collaborative Law Enforcement Accreditation Program grant to purchase equipment for evidence storage and preservation and declaring an emergency. Captain.
Thank you, sir. Yes, this is a 2026 OCJS grant that we requested funds of just under $15,000. This is a 15-month grant starting April 1st of 2026. And with this, we have the ability to purchase a biological evidence refrigerator to store evidence and an uninterrupted power supply source for that refrigerator. Having these two items will put us in compliance with state requirements and with the Ohio Collaborative.
Very good. Any questions regarding this from any committee members? Councilman Lombardo?
Captain, do we have one now?
We do have a refrigerator. This is certainly an upgrade that we need at the station.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions? Councilman Garrett.
Thank you so much, Chair. Captain, so I have a question in relation to the accreditation program. So how does this assist with that accreditation program? And are we going down the path of becoming an accredited institution? Thank you.
Yes, that is one of the objectives, is to get the state accreditation, and having this equipment is part of one of those tiers in that structure of that. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to see that you guys are en route to doing that. Thank you, Captain. Great job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councilman. Any other questions from any council or committee members? Okay, what's your pleasure, sir?
Suspension of the rules on this one also, sir, due to the time frame.
Motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll get that before council as well. The next piece we have is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee, if awarded, to accept and expend the Office of Criminal Justice Services 2025 Sexual Assault Kit Initiative Grant to fund certain personnel and operational costs associated with sexual assault investigations and declaring an emergency. Captain.
Thank you, sir. Yes, this is the 2025 SAKI grant, and the requested funds are for just under $34,000. It is a 12-month grant. With this, we'll be allowed the overtime for the investigation, sexual assault kit testing, and also training in the investigations for sexual assaults.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions from any committee members or any other council members? Not seeing any. Oh, sorry, Councilman Greer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to just rise and state my support of this. This is a very important program, and having that funding for those kits is hugely important. So thank you.
Very appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilman. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. Time constraints on this as well?
Yes, sir. So suspension also.
Okay. Can we get a motion for suspension of the rules?
I'll make the motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
We have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We'll get that before council as well this evening. The next piece is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Howe Rescue Systems for the purchase of extrication tools for the Akron Fire Division and declaring an emergency. Okay, we've changed folks now.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The request is the ability to purchase 2 sets of extrication tools. This past week at a training evolution, we had a catastrophic failure of our RAM, which is an extension tool which will provide room to remove a patient from a vehicle. These tools were bought in 2013, and the construction of vehicles has changed. There's high strength, low alloy steel such as boron that vehicles are made of now, and these upgraded tools are a necessity to perform our function.
So I take it we're down a unit right now.
We are, sir. It's currently getting repaired, but with the new construction of the vehicles, we can't be sure that these tools won't fail on an actual call. So, we think it's important to replace. We're requesting replacement of 2 sets at this time, with another 2 when the budget allows next year.
What's the lead time on these? Is this like any of the other things we've had problems getting? Or?
Yeah, so actually we won't have any problem. We can get them fairly immediately with the vendor being local, as well as if we have any failure, any repair that needs to be done, this vendor is right down the road and can pretty much guarantee replacement within a few hours.
Okay. So. What's your pleasure in this?
Suspension of the rules, please.
Okay. Can we get a motion?
Suspend the rules with a favorable report. I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We'll get this before council this evening as well.
Appreciate you.
The next piece come before us is an ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a contract or contracts without the formality of publicly advertising for bids with Vector Solutions for the use of frontline public safety software for the Safety Communications Center. The floor is yours, sir.
Excuse me, could you turn on your microphone? Yep, that button. Thank you so much.
I'm Lieutenant Matthew Sherrick with the Akron Police Department. Basically, using Frontline, there are several different modules inside of Frontline. It's a computer-based program. There are programs in there that basically help us monitor attendance. They help us monitor disciplinary issues, training, quality assurance. All the policies, procedures, rules, and regulations are easily available for all the employees and supervisors, all locally in one program. It's been utilized in the center for quite some time, and it's been very effective.
Okay, very good. Any questions from any committee members or any other council members? What's your pleasure on this, sir?
Suspension of rules?
Okay, get a motion.
Motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll get that before council this evening. Thank you. The next piece is a resolution opposing and objecting to the renewal application of Andes and Firestone Park LLC, 1751 South Main Street, Akron, Ohio, 44301 for a Class D and Class D6 liquor permit, 0211611 before the Division of Liquor Control and declaring an emergency. And I see we have our new prosecutor. Congratulations, by the way, Jessica.
Okay.
And the floor is yours.
Thank you. So this legislation will allow us to object to the renewal of the liquor permit for Andes in the Park, or Andes and Firestone Park LLC. This is a property that we've been keeping an eye on for some time now. The calls for service have increased over the last couple of years. Last year we had about 11 fights. Weapons were involved in many of those. There was a lot of allegations of underage drinking. This year so far there have been at least 7 fights, but 3 shootings and a stabbing as well. So this is a property that we would like to object to them renewing their liquor license.
Thank you for that. This is Councilman Kamer's ward. I'd welcome any comments you have, Councilman.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I want to thank the prosecutor's office for their work on bringing this to City Council. This has been a problem for a few years. As a ward City Council person, these are some of these problem businesses are what we face with our phone calls from the neighbors. Or other area businesses that are within walking distance. We've had a neighbor business that had to change their hours of business because of this location. I've also spoke with a few of the neighboring residents over the last couple of years about the concerns of this bar. Like our prosecutor said, you know, this year alone, we've had several fight calls. We had one shooting where 2 males were shot, another shooting where 1 male was shot. I've actually have a few videos that has been sent to me from residents of my ward where folks will videotape the fights. And yeah, so it's been an issue for a little while. And I'm asking for the support of the rest of the committee so we can move this forward and at least trigger that hearing so we can have that conversation. If anybody has any questions or comments, they're more than welcome to reach out to me. But as a ward council person, we all know, you know, there's 10 of us that represent our wards that get those phone calls from the neighbors, from those concerned residents that are awakened at all hours of when these bars get out of hand. So with that, yeah, hopefully the committee will support this and council will support this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. I do remember over the years several different issues with this place. It's a shame that it only takes one business to just absolutely bring down an entire neighborhood. So any other comments or questions by any other committee members? Not seeing council members. We get a motion for suspension of the rules on this?
Make the motion to suspend the rules with a favorable report.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for suspension of the rules. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll get that out before council this evening, and hopefully we make it council as a whole this evening. The next piece to come before us is a resolution expressing support for the administration examining ways to limit vehicular pursuits for low-level and nonviolent offenses in order to prioritize the preservation of life and community safety and declaring an emergency. I will defer to, I will yield to Mr. Garrett.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to bring this before you today. As the councilman at large for this city, I had an opportunity to do a tour where I had an opportunity to go to all wards. Haven't had a chance to finish up in Ward 10, but I'll be finishing there here soon. And during that time, it was a police reform conversation, having conversations with individuals about things that affected and impacted them and their community, and what bothered and what concerned them most. And so, as we took some of their concerns, we had an opportunity to look at them. And one of the things that we wanted to discuss with them is some of the things that we don't object to. Just say, for instance, out of $17 million 2026 projected revenues for Public Service Department, they're asking for $6 million. Akron Police Department is asking for $7 million. And then also the Akron Fire Department is asking for $4.9 million. In that, we have no objections primarily, but with one objection or one concern a lot of individuals had was with the long guns. And so during that time, we had a conversation around those long guns and how a lot of folks didn't feel like additional long guns in their community would really help the community out in that regard. So having further conversations around that. But some of the things that we did talk about in these town hall meetings were ending vehicular pursuits for low-level non-offense. Some of the other things we talked about was, some of the other things were the disrespectful command intensifiers were constituents were concerned about, body cam footage for 60 seconds, in some cases 120 seconds, audio and visual look back to be able to help out in the community. In addition to that, ending head strikes for low-level offenses, and also the window tint were some of the things making it from a primary to a secondary reason to stop it. And so these were some of the things that we discussed during the town hall meetings and some of those concerns. And when you think about some of these names, and we're just talking about high-speed pursuits for low-level offenses. When you think about that, you think about the gentleman, Leon Williams Jr. You should not know these people's names. None of us should know these people's names, but the reason we do know their names today is because these people are either in a coma or no longer living because they were victims of high-speed pursuits for low-level offenses. Leon Williams Jr. is currently in a coma. It was a chase, a pursuit after an individual who took a car, and that individual now, like I said, is in a coma. Easter 2022, we had Arlo Mosley, Raymond Wanzo, Zion Jackson Grisby. 2022, these three individuals are no longer living today because of a high-speed pursuit for low-level offenses. In 2016, you had Mrs. McGinnis from Bookdale, who's no longer living today because of a high-speed pursuit for a low-level offense. I think this is important that we bring this up today, although we do understand, as we read the resolution into your hearing today, we can't dictate and tell the police chief, the mayor to do anything with his police force. This is only a resolution just urging them to look at these things because there were concerns that residents expressed during our meetings. Some of the impact that this will have. This This puts innocent people's lives at risk. Disproportionately impacts black, white, poor white, and brown people in their community because they're living on more congested streets. Endangers a lot of children. We run into property damage. The one gentleman who lived in Highland Square, just white kid working, um, someone ran into the back of his car on a low level, low offense, and then this individual didn't have insurance to replace his car. He just had liability, but it was a low level offense that caused his property damage. This causes trauma to the residents. This causes loss of community trust. Risk often exceeds the original offense. So some of this risk is sort of bad to take these risks. Financial burdens on our taxpayers places officers at greater risk. And caring for the officers, I think, should be paramount in this case here as well. Creates unnecessary public safety hazards. And so for these reasons, I'm hopefully that my colleagues will support and just urge this administration to look at ways to reduce or to stop low-level, high-speed pursuit chases. Our goal should never be to choose between enforcing the law and protecting innocent people. But limiting high-speed pursuits for low-level nonviolent offenses, the city can reduce unnecessary risks, protect officers and residents, preserve public trust, and prioritize the preservation of life. This aligns with the purpose of this administration's goal in terms of making our city better and making it a community safe place to be. So with that, I'm hoping to get the support. And like I said, once again, similar to the last piece of legislation, this is not actually dictating anything. This is just opening up and having that conversation. Heaven forbid a major offense will take place, a major offense. I would want these officers to do 200 to 300 miles an hour to save someone from a major incident. But when it comes to low-level offenses, I would be hopeful that they would be mindful in those communities and take caution. So with that, thank you, Chair, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councilman Garrett. Are there any questions or comments from any committee members? Councilman Lombardo.
Thank you. Councilman Garrett, I'm sure you witnessed, fights in your life. I'm sure you witnessed speed chases in your life. None of that looks pretty. We don't know from a bystander perspective what the reason for the fight is or what the reason for the chase is. Could be a very valid reason. We don't know that it's low level or not. But I'm just wondering, did this ever come up during like those perf reports? When we had that use of force study, did this come up? Maybe our
I can
chief of
answer that one,
safety.
Councilman Lombardo. Yeah. So the scope of the perf report, to be clear, was use of force. Pursuits was not in the
That's
scope
not
of the
use of
report.
force. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if, I don't know any of the police procedures right now. It seems to me that they've kind of already are making some judgments on not stopping anybody for a tail light or whatever. I don't really know, but I'm just wondering how much are we going to keep handcuffing our men and women in blue? That's what I'm wondering. And this just came up because of some town hall meetings? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. And when you suggest some town hall meetings, these were not just in one particular ward. This is throughout the entire city, mind you. We recently didn't have an opportunity for you to attend the one in Patterson Park, but it was discussed at length during that one in Patterson Park where individuals were just concerned about the high-speed pursuits for low-level offenses. And this is their concerns. And so with that being said, we just want to make sure that we bring their concerns to light. And there's not a way to make the police department do X, Y, and Z. Similar to the last piece of legislation that came through, this is just urging a conversation. This is just urging them to consider policies that would preserve life, so we wouldn't be, so that the names of Leon Williams Jr. wouldn't be known for something negative. So the name of Arlo Mosley wouldn't be known for something negative. The name Raymond Wanzo wouldn't be known for something negative. Miss McGinnis at Bookto, these lives forever changed based on low level, high speed pursuits. And if we can have during our training of new officers, hey, these are reasons, because we get calls on what the calls are, what's the reason we're in pursuit. And so hopefully during this time, we can train our officers. For one, they're not traumatized because once they hit an individual, now they have to live with that, knowing that, hey, I had a chance to be a part of a person passing away because of my speed today. And so if we can just work on those, and I don't want it to come across every single time we try to hold law enforcement accountable that we get major pushback on accountability. I think it's important that we hold individuals accountable, whether it's in the service department, whether it's in the human resources department, but it just so happens to be in the police department. We get a lot of pushback in terms of wanting to hold them accountable. So I would hope that my members would see this as a way that people in the community, they come down to city council all the time. You see them in our gallows, yelling about some type of police reform. These are minor. This cost us zero. I mentioned at the beginning the $7 million that the police wanted for some of the things that they wanted in terms of the capital, their budget. And when you look at their budget, $664,000 for management software, $500,000 for the training departments, $358,000 for the police CAD department, $3 million for the safety for staffing. And so this list goes on and on. And so what I'm asking, and so what a lot of constituents have been asking, for $0 as opposed to $7 million, for $0, we just urge this administration to please consider not having high-speed pursuits for low-level offenses in our community. I hope that answers your question.
Those are my questions for right now. I'll let Councilman Amobian speak.
Councilwoman Amobian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Perhaps Director Morgan could answer these questions or could get information for us. How many of these do we have a year? How many are we averaging? And the individuals that were named, I don't know if they were bystanders or if they were the individuals being pursued. What is the protocol now with regard to these? The officers use their own personal judgment in terms of when they stop, or how are they instructed to conduct these?
Well, so to your first question, Councilwoman Amobian, I can certainly get those numbers for you and share those with council. Absolutely, that's easy to do. We keep that data. I just don't have it before me right now. To the second point, there's obviously we have multiple procedures that speak towards emergency vehicle operation. In addition to that, there's been a lot of changes just in the last couple of years, Mayor Malik's administration. We did go away from, we did put an admonition in place for pursuits as it relates to equipment violations. And then later the same year in 2024, Chief Harding issued an order mandating that all officers operate, vehicles in such situations with due regard to safety. And baked into that chief's order was essentially a rebuttable presumption that, in excess of 25 miles per hour, posted speed limit, we would start to question whether the vehicle was being operated in due regard to safety. So there's been a couple of steps already taken. As I said to Councilman Lombardo earlier, though this wasn't a scope of the PERF report, I will tell you that pursuits is something very actively working on since my transition. So, there's other work to be done, but certainly we've already laid a pretty good foundation to that.
And if you have numbers, before these changes were ordered and numbers afterwards, that would be helpful to know.
Absolutely. Let me see what I can do for you, okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. This is going to be back at our Public Safety Director, Craig Morgan. So you already touched on it, but it was kind of like the question I was thinking about when the Akron officers are in a potential situation where they're about to pull over individual or individuals or someone driving a vehicle for a low-level offense, and they do engage in a speed because they're not pulling over. The chief or a supervisor can call that off, correct?
That's an excellent point, Councilman Kamer, and I can tell you, just from my experience in my old role as the chief prosecutor, let alone my new role, our supervisors are pretty aggressive about calling off chases.
Okay, well, I mean, like I said, the resolution basically is asking the administration to look into something that we already basically have, correct? I don't want to put words into your mouth, but I mean, a policy that we basically already have.
Right. I would tell you we have multiple policies and procedures that speak towards emergency vehicle operations, and yes, it's heavily regulated already.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Councilman. Any other committee members or other council members? Oh, Councilperson Wilson.
Thank you for bringing this in. I know we've had a couple conversations about this. Thanks for letting me speak real quick. I know, like Mr. Morgan said, that there was a ban on the equipment-related chases in '24 when the mayor came in, and on the 25 miles an hour over the speed limit. But the low-level offense is a pretty big issue. I know this is something that I think Councilwoman Mosley was very passionate about as well. So I would love for my name to be added to this piece of legislation. I think there should be more conversation on the policy end internally about how we go about doing these chases and oversight on these chases as well. I think it's important. A friend a couple years ago shared with me a stat of loss of life after chases, and it's very upsetting to see that stuff. So a review would be great, and if you could get us those numbers, that would be very much appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Thank you, Councilperson. Any other questions or comments from any committee members? If not, Councilman Lombardo.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for time till we get some stats from our director, Craig Morgan. But I know, like I said, a lot of these questions are already answered, and the administration is working on things related to this. I think it's the best of both worlds that you have what you want, Councilman Garrett. But let's look at some stats with these low-level chases. I think that'd be good.
Okay, we have a motion for time. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for time. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Roll
Can
call,
I do
please.
thank you. McKittrick?
Aye.
Kamer?
Nay.
Lombardo?
Aye.
Hannah?
Aye.
And Garrett.
Aye.
The motion for time passes 4-1.
Thank you. We'll take time on that then. We have one last piece to come before us. It's another resolution expressing support for the administration examining ways to make window tint violations a secondary offense in order to eliminate practices that create the appearance of profiling and declaring an emergency. Again, Councilman Garrett.
Thank you once again, Chair. Once again, during our town hall meetings, we had conversations around different things that would help in the community in terms of making folks feel safe in their community, making our community feel more of a community-centered policing as opposed to a militarized policing. And one of the things that came up in those conversations is where window tint currently is now a primary reason to pull an individual over, consider ways to perhaps make it a secondary offense. Similarly, if your police officer is driving down the street and a passenger does not have their seatbelt on, that wouldn't be a primary reason to stop that vehicle. But in the event that they do stop that vehicle for some other reason, that would be an offense that could be cited as well. I'm hopeful, I'm hopeful that for zero cost, that we would consider the making window tint a secondary offense. So one couple of the things, it reduces glare with the window tint. It reduces the internal temperature a lot of times for individuals in their car, also for pets and for children that may be in cars for prolonged periods of time. Those are some of the things, and it also does theft deterrent for individuals. One of the reasons folks have brought this during our town hall is an individual who's been working for the city for close to 30 years was pulled over in his front yard by law enforcement in front of his grandchildren and his children for window tint. They stayed in the house as they watched their grandfather be subjected to a harsh interrogation process over window tint. And as we consider this, I would just like to consider have some of my colleagues perhaps take a tour through some of our parking lots of current members of law enforcement who has window tint. And so I think it's hard for them to then go out and write tickets when a lot of their vehicles have window tint currently. This comes from the factory, it comes this way. And so I'm hopeful that today, instead of having window tint as a primary reason to pull things over, that a lot of constituents during those town hall meetings brought up how they feel targeting because of their window tint, racial profiling because of their window tint, stereotyping and assumptions because of their window tint, disproportionately targeted because of their window tint, and just flat out harassing. We do understand that roughly 40% of the calls for services are calls that people call in. The other large percent is offenses or things that police officers pick up while they're out in the field. And if we can reduce some of these window tint violations and pulling individuals over for these reasons that I just mentioned, I think it would help go a long way with making the community feel that it is more of a community policing versus a military style policing versus harassment and profiling of individuals. And for these reasons, like I said, it cost us $0 to explore the opportunity to say that we've listened to the constituents as they come down to complain about feeling over policed a lot of times. This will give us opportunity to hear some of their concerns and address some of their concerns. So with that, I'm hopeful that we're able to have this pass just to have that conversation. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. I guess one question I do have, and this one makes me scratch my head, and I don't think really anybody can help me understand this. When you say racial profiling, if you can't see the person in the car, and I see many cars that I don't even know if somebody's sitting in it in a parking lot, which I'm very cautious when I'm walking around in parking lots because a lot of times that's where a lot of crimes are committed, people between cars and so on. But I don't know how somebody's profiled if you don't even know if somebody's in the car, let alone what they look like. That just kind of confuses me.
Thank you so much for that question. So in terms of profiling, if you can just follow me for a second, we have flock cameras in our community. We have 145 flock cameras in the city of Akron. Nearly 60 of them are in Ward 3. Nearly 60 of them are in Ward 3. 25 of them are in Ward 5. Roughly 20 of them are in Ward 4. So you can easily see the profiling is falling into place right there. And so a lot of times these people in these communities are being profiled. And I know it's easy. I know it's easy for a white male to sit and suggest somehow, I don't understand how this could possibly be. But unless you live in these individuals' skin, unless you live in these communities that are being over-policed and over-surveilled, the numbers don't lie. There are 145 flock cameras. And a majority of these are in the poor, white, black, and brown communities. If these things are there for safety, we don't have enough safety to only have 4 of them in Ward 8. We don't feel enough safety to have 6 of them in Ward 6. But to have this amount in Wards 3, 4, and 5 is concerning. So, to your point, Chair, the profiling takes place based on where you live. And a lot of these individuals feel over-policed in that area. Thank you for your question, though.
I have a question for Craig Morgan. I don't know if you even have any recollection to this when this came about, because it is in the Ohio Revised Code and then it became law. Do you have any recollection as to the reasoning when they brought this in to be voted on, why they wanted to make it illegal to have dark windows?
Oh, you're referring to tint. So tint regulations exist both in the Akron City Code and the Ohio Revised Code. They've been there for well over in excess of 30 years. Now, interesting, and sort of to Mr. Garrett's point, he mentioned manufacturers earlier. The state's code, which the state treats tint as a primary offense, it doesn't treat it as a secondary offense, but the state code applies both to the subject driving a vehicle, but also to a subject installing tint on the vehicle. So in other words, manufacturers, they have certain regulations that are in the Ohio Administrative Code. There are certain percentages that they're allowed to be on the front window, the side windows, the rear window, and the manufacturers have to comply with those administrative code violations. So really what tint, whether it's under the revised code for the state of Ohio or whether it's on the city code, really what it's addressing is aftermarket application.
No, but what I'm curious also, do you have any recollection when this came in, the reasons behind it, like who the sponsors of it when it came in through the state, the purpose behind the law?
I mean, the purpose was always public safety in the sense that goes two ways. You know, does it impair the ability of a person to operate the vehicle? You know, can they clearly see out of the vehicle? And then also there's certainly a component for, you know, people approaching the vehicle from the outside, you know, being able to see into it. So again, definitely something that's been on the books, both in the city of Akron and the state of Ohio for decades.
Thank you. Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This question is going to come back to you, Craig Morgan. But so you mentioned the Ohio Revised Code and the window tint as a primary offense. So here locally, we as a city could change our ordinance to make it a secondary offense, correct?
I would question whether, well, we could probably change whatever we want. The question is, does it have any, the constructive impact would be negligible. In other words, officers of the Akron Police Department or any city, they're able to utilize state code or city code. In other words, if our code said it was a secondary offense, officers would still be able to pull vehicles over for tint violations because it's still lawful under state code, if that makes sense.
No, that does make sense. So that brings me to another question. Chair,
Yes, sir.
please. So really, if this resolution was like asking the administration to look at I think it says making this a secondary offense. Yeah, secondary offense, really, they can still use the ORC, correct?
Correct. It would be, constructively, it just wouldn't have any practical impact.
Got you. Nope, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kamer. Any other questions from committee members? Councilman Lombardo.
So you talk about scratching your head. So we're allowed to have tint, correct? I mean, Mr. Morgan, we, like you said, the manufacturers are allowed to put some tint on vehicles. Then I get my vehicle and I want it a little darker. Maybe by law, I'm going to an aftermarket place to put on additional darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'm still within the law.
Yes.
So, right? But but these aftermarket dealers, they should know the law. They could put on something darker than the law allows.
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So now, so we're allowed to have tinting, but now we're talking about to make this a secondary offense. Like, do we have any stats on police just stopping vehicles for tinted windows? I don't really get the purpose of this, Councilman Garrett. What's the problem? What's the problem here?
The problem is to be a black male.
But the windows are tinted.
Right.
So how do we know?
Let me speak. You're asking questions, or are you going to jump in?
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. When you get a constituent to reach out to you to suggest that they're being harassed because they're being pulled over for window tint as a primary reason to stop you, they pull you off in front of your grandkids, they harass you, to give you a hard time for window tint. I am suggesting that we consider not making this a primary offense, to make it a secondary offense. And just follow me for a second. When ICE agents was coming into our city, our mayor boldly stood at that podium and directed our law enforcement not to do X, Y, and Z. That was his directive. And so all we're asking for is similarly how the police department got $7 million of all of their asks, how the fire department got $6 million, $4 million for all of their asks. During these town hall meetings, these were things that were brought up, and there will be more of these resolutions coming your way, just some of their concerns and how they feel in their community. But I want my colleagues to understand, unless you are a black man in this community, some of these things, it will pass you by and you will scratch your head and you will have no reason why this would happen to a regular person. And until you actually have seen this or heard these people's concerns, then I can understand why you would scratch your head, but you would have to get to know your constituents, get to know how these people feel and why this is important to them. I mean, you would scratch your head all day long and think, why would we spend $300,000 on a perf report? Why would we? You would scratch your head all day and try to figure out, why would we spend all of this money for police oversight? You would scratch your head. You would scratch your head and probably think about, why would we going to spend tens of millions of dollars for lawsuits that we have in our community? You would probably scratch your head. You would probably also scratch your head when you just sit back and think about, why would we have to have or stop people from low-level offenses driving fast for low-level offenses in our community? But these are things that are impacting people in our community. And when we mentioned the names of these individuals, going back to the last piece of those high-speed pursuits, that these people are no longer here, this is what's happening in the poor white, black, and brown community. And these are just asks to ask the administration to have a conversation about it. And that's all we're trying to do today. But it's sort of, it goes to speak to the culture of what we're trying to deal with today. And these are minor things. I know the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. These are small things that we're able to start to bring to light, to be able to have the conversations that are needed. I mean, these are some of the things that are impacting our community. And so I'm hopeful that my colleagues will see an opportunity forward just to have a conversation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Any other questions or comments from any committee members or council members? Is there a motion? I do. Oh, Councilman Kamer.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, you know, my colleague, he brought in a really good resolution a while back about the body camera footage. You know, that was a good one. That was something to encourage the administration, the police department to even go back further. That was a really good resolution. But these two, you know, what I'll talk about this one is we're hearing from our Director of Public Safety that this really is not going to change anything, correct? Can I get one more comment from you before we actually vote on this?
No, yeah, I mean, just to be clear, there's two sets of laws, right? And again, not unique for the city of Akron. City of Akron has a code of ordinances, but there's also the Ohio Revised Code. And that's the way it is in the city of Columbus, the city of Cleveland. The state code has these same type of regulations. No person shall operate a vehicle when the tint is, greater than the percentages prescribed by the Ohio Revised Code. And so since the state code still treats the violation as a primary offense, officers are still, within the city of Akron, can still utilize the state code context. And so it just would not have any, practical applicability here to this situation. It's not going to change what officers are or are not allowed to do in the city of Akron because there's also still a state code.
Yeah, no, thank you. And like I said, I would, and I mentioned this earlier, I would bring in an ordinance right now, next week, to make this a secondary offense within the city, correct? But the officers can use the Ohio Revised Code to basically say, okay, we understand Councilman Cameron brought in this to make this a secondary offense in our code, but we can still enforce the state code. So, because I would bring that in next week, but it's mute. All right, thanks.
Chair?
Yes.
As a follow-up, and when you look at resolution number 45-2026, this was where the mayor directed his law enforcement not to assist ICE. So this is for the chief of. So would this have been mute as well? Would this piece of legislation have been mute? Would the police officers been able to, half of them, been say, hey, I heard what the mayor said, but I'm going to go ahead and help with this enforcement of these ICE agents? And so would that piece of legislation have been mute as well?
I don't think that's in the ORC. Like what the chief was talking about. I'm not sure exactly how that relates to this particular piece.
Thank you. It relates on the grounds of directing our law enforcement by the city mayor to have his police officers to do X, Y, or Z. And he's able to direct them not to engage with ICE, but we're making a case to suggest that the law enforcement could forego the mayor's, if the mayor decided to make this a secondary offense, and still go past his discretion and still make it a primary offense. I don't think those officers would be able to do that if the mayor directed, similarly how he directed the us not to engage with ICE agents, he could then direct them not to write up an individual for a primary offense for window tint.
Councilperson Wilson?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to take a quick second. I think we spoke, Mr. Garrett, about like what is possible under the law, and I think the conversation about the secondary versus primary in the state versus city is a good conversation to be had, maybe out of this forum, and then maybe come back, because I know there are some differentiations between city and state currently, and some are prioritized over and used with discretion, right? So I think my main thing with this is I want to really know more about the ability for the city to make it a primary or a secondary. And then I do think, and I would think a lot of us don't want a lot of staff wasted running around pulling people over for window tints, right? That sounds like a waste of money and resources on the policing side. So I get it, because it's not at the level of a DUI, right? It's not at the level of reckless driving. It's not abhorrent behavior. So I think I is still very curious about that question. I don't think you've answered it quite yet for me, so I just wanted to highlight it. Thank you.
Any other questions? What's the pleasure of the committee?
I make a motion for an adverse report.
We have a motion for an adverse report. Is there a second? We don't have a second. Is there another motion?
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules so we can bring this to a full council as a vote.
We have a motion for suspension of the rules by Mr. Kamer. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor for suspension of the rules?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Roll call.
McKittrick,
Aye.
Kamer,
Aye.
Lombardo,
Nay.
Hannah, Garrett.
Aye.
The motion to suspend the rules passes 4-1.
Thank you. And we will get the entire vote of council this evening, as Mr. Kamer has said. We have nothing further to come before public safety. We will be adjourned.
Our next committee of the day is the Budget and Finance Committee. Those committee members are Lombardo, Amobian, Wilson, Boyes, and Bolden. We do have all committee members present. We're going to give everyone just a few minutes here before we begin. Thank you. Okay, thanks for your patience, everyone. We're ready to begin the Budget and Finance Committee. Again, those committee members are Lombardo, Amobian, Wilson, Boyes, and Bolden. We do have all committee members present whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, welcome. We did have some minutes to approve from last week, so I get a motion to approve last week's meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Well, we don't have anything new except what we're going to talk about this afternoon, and it's a mid-year budget review. So I'm sure Mr. Fricker and Mr. Wheeler and Ellen, everybody all worked hard on this, so we're going to start off with you.
Yes,
Okay?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Council. We are here to present the mid-year review of the city's operating budget. So we're going to be presenting this in kind of three different parts. I will be presenting the operating budget. Mike will be presenting an update on the ARPA fund, and Helen will be presenting an update on the capital budget for this year.
Okay.
So at a very high level, looking at our budget this year, and I'm going to explain a little bit shortly about how some of these numbers were arrived at. There are a number of documents that I posted out on the shared website that we also use for the original operating budget hearings. There's a folder in there called Mid-Year Update that I posted several documents regarding the mid-year budget review. So the primary document really is just kind of a mimic of the way the appropriation ordinance was constructed. So it lists each fund and department that we appropriated for during the original operating budget hearings, and then breaks those down into the labor and non-labor categories. It shows what was budgeted, where we are as of the end of June, and then a forecast for all of 2026. And then it highlighted areas where there was, a somewhat significant difference, either underspend or overspend, and then there's a narrative that goes along with that document that kind of describes what some of those variances are. So those are there for you to review. And then there's a number of other documents that are posted related to the city's revenues, some of the labor costs, highlights of overtime and full-time wages and terminal pay, highlight of the city's major revenue sources. So all of that information is available out in that shared directory. So kind of at a very high level, what I'm showing on the screen here as part of this PowerPoint is that the budget is really tracking very close to what we originally budgeted. The forecast does show it going over budget slightly. I still think that is probably not going to happen. I do think we'll come under the original budget, but the way the forecast was done, it is showing a couple areas where we're overspending. One of them is kind of a procedural change that I'll talk about shortly, having to do with the water and sewer capital projects. Likewise for labor. Labor is coming in very close to what we budgeted. I'll explain at how those numbers were arrived at, and a little bit of a difference. So I kind of ran the labor numbers two different ways. One is part of the overall forecast, and then one that tries to kind of zero in on some specific areas. And the totals for those two different forecasts come out close to the same, but the breakdown of where we overspend and underspend is a little bit different between the two, and I'll explain that. A lot of it has to do with the way that overtime is working this year. So as I mentioned, what I basically did is I built a forecast in the city's budgeting system that looked at all of the expenditures through the end of June, and then going forward, looked at by month what was originally budgeted. So it's kind of taking the actuals from the first half of the year and using the budgeted amounts for the second half of the year. Now, having said that, there are a number of items where we don't really have regular monthly expenditures, so there's timing differences between how expenditures occur throughout the year. So there are circumstances where we budgeted, we said this is going to happen equally over 12 months, but in reality, we paid for the entire item, say, in February. And then likewise, there's items that are showing that we would only have 6 months yet, but in reality, we haven't paid for any of it, so it's all going to happen in the second half of the year. So on those items, and I really focused in on the general fund, but several other funds, I really tried to go in and make manual adjustments for those areas where I saw timing differences. So there was a lot of overriding of the original forecast to try to correct all of those timing type differences that we had. The other change that I'm going to talk about is with the way that the labor budget works. So the numbers that are contained in that look at the appropriation ordinance, while again I believe that they are fairly close in total, are likely understating overtime somewhat and overstating the regular full-time wages. And those two will somewhat offset one another. And it's also likely understating police and fire costs and overstating the rest of the department. So I have some slides in here that specifically show, where I think those differences are. But again, in total, I think the labor budget, both methods that I used to calculate that were fairly close. So both of them right around $260 million, which is what we budgeted. Okay, a look at the city's major revenue sources, and we'll start with the income tax. So currently, the income tax is up about 1.3%, and I'll have a breakdown of that in a minute. But my anticipation is that the income tax will come in approximately on budget, so approximately up about 2.5%. And again, I'll get into the specifics of that here in a minute. The two areas that are kind of tracking under what we budgeted are the water and sewer fees. So those are tracking a little bit below what was anticipated by roughly 4 to 5% each between those two areas. The property tax is tracking a little bit over. The first half collections came in about 1% higher than what was there last year. That's not due to a significant change in what the assessed valuation is. It's just, maybe some of the, the fewer delinquent collections than what we had last year. So that is trending up a little bit. The 2.2 is probably a little high. I anticipated actually coming in about where we are right now, up about 1%. The JED revenues, and I'll have a more detailed slide on that, are tracking a little bit under. Most of that is related to the Bath JED that is coming in under what we anticipated. Local government fund up slightly. The casino revenue also is essentially on budget, exactly what we've expected. That is really stabilized right around $3.8 million a year for the casino revenue. And then the adult use cannabis I had originally budgeted $1,750,000. That is coming in a little bit below what was anticipated. And again, a lot of that was a kind of a lump sum that we got earlier in this year that represented some of the collections that were never distributed last year that we finally got this year. So, but it's not tracking as high as what I anticipated. So that'll be about 10% under budget. Okay, here is a look at the income tax, and you can see there's a big difference between, as I said, we're up about, right now, about 1.4%, with the net profit being down substantially and the individual and withholding collections being up substantially. So based on that, I do think we will see a little bit stronger growth in the second half, just due to the timing of when some of the net profit revenues come in. So again, I believe that we will come in approximately on budget about up 2.5% for the year. The JED, here's a look at that. Again, overall we are down, but as you can see, the Bath JED accounts for virtually all of that. So while we have Copley and Springfield are up, Bath and Coventry are down. Okay, in terms of the global, like the entire city budget, again, this is forecasting the overall expenditures to come in about $790 million, as opposed to the budget of about $785 million. So slightly over budget. Again, I do think that's a little bit pessimistic, but there are some changes in the way water and sewer capital expenditures were done, which will mean that we have higher expenditures for those capital projects. And what this has to do with is the way that loan proceeds are distributed with water and sewer projects. So previously, the disbursements for the construction on those contracts were distributed directly to the contractors and therefore did not flow through the city's workday ledger and reduce that budget. Likewise, the revenues didn't flow through the ledger either. They have made a change that all of those expenditures will now, the city will be required to pay the vendor, and then we will get reimbursed with the loan proceeds. So that's going to cause a little bit of a change in the way that we account for those capital projects within water and sewer. And that is a big reason for the change that we'll have and see higher expenditures this year. Likewise, we will have higher revenues because we will be getting the loan proceeds directly. Okay, a little bit of a look at the general fund by department. You know, some of the key areas that we see, the primary one is police. So largely as a result of the labor costs within police, their budget will come in over what we anticipated. Fire in this sheet is showing that they would actually be slightly under. In reality, because of what I mentioned, that difference in the way that labor is calculated, I believe that fire will be over a little bit too, because their overtime is also trending ahead of what we budgeted.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Steve. I know some of the members here, it looks like you're having a hard time seeing the screen. I just want to remind you that you can join today's Zoom meeting to see it on your own device. Just make sure not to connect to audio. Make sure your device itself is muted. You'll be able to see the screen a little easier that way. Thank you.
All right. And I will post this out. This is really the information that's contained in the documents I posted, but I will post this presentation out as well. This slide just shows kind of a breakdown between the wage and benefit numbers. As I said, we should come in very close to the $260 million that we budgeted for the city as a whole within labor. This also kind of shows that breakdown, and it kind of shows the areas where we will trend under budget and which ones will be over budget. So as I mentioned, the full-time wages should be somewhat under budget, whereas the overtime will be over budget. And as a result of that, the pension will be slightly over budget as well. Here's kind of a look at where we are with police and fire overtime, as well as really all of the overtime. So I think the highlight here is the fact that we are trending ahead of budget, but we are trending less than what we spent last year. So we're going to be about $3.7 million less than what we spent last year, but we'll be about $3.4 million over budget if these trends continue. And hopefully we will have better trends in the second half of the year. Here is kind of a breakdown by department of, really the key accounts that are driving the labor costs within the city. So the regular wages, and as you can see, overall, the regular wages, and this is very typical for the way, that labor costs trend through the city. Labor costs, or the regular wages are trending about $5 million under budget. The overtime about $3.4 million over budget. And then we do not budget the terminal pay. So that is forecasted to be about $6.3 million. Now, one thing I want to point out is the fact that I've done a projection for terminal pay based on kind of the typical trend that we see, that about 2/3 of the terminal pay happens in the first half of the year and 1/3 happens in the second half of the year. So based on that, I kind of projected for all departments. So I just did kind of a pro rata estimate for all departments. So some of these will not have, I'm showing some retirement costs for all departments. In reality, some of them will not have any, because this is just a projection. Here's a quick look at the city's head count. As you know, we reduced the number of positions that we budgeted this year. So this kind of shows the difference. And what we're showing here is the full-time regular employee count spanning from the beginning of January of 2025 through where we are right now. And you can see that we're about 51 employees lower than we were at that time. Right now, or at least at the end of June, we had 114 vacant positions. So that's something you've heard me say frequently at budgets, that typically we have about 100 vacant positions, and that's certainly in line with where we usually are. So right now, 114 vacant positions. Okay, one of the reasons, when I mentioned that there are two different labor estimates, and why we typically have savings in the regular wages category, really that is limited to the non-safety departments. So because we get so much more specific with budgeting police and fire, and we actually try to determine by month how many they will have at any given month, and then budget an average of those, there really isn't any savings from the vacant positions in police and fire, because we've already baked that into the budget. And this kind of shows a correlation of what we anticipated by month and where we actually are. Now, obviously the second half is a projection, but you can see that the counts are trending very closely to what we budgeted for police and fire staffing. Each of them are actually slightly ahead of where we anticipated. So we have, 1 to 2 more employees on average employed in police and fire than what we budgeted originally. One other thing I'll mention is we are obviously in negotiations with the ASME bargaining unit. So the additional cost of that contract, if any, is not reflected in these numbers. And because we're still negotiating, I'm not going to speculate on what those cost of living increases might be. So what I've done is basically just prepare a slide that shows for each 1% of a cost of living adjustment, what the impact to the city would be for each fund within the city. So unlike police and fire, the ASME bargaining unit has employees in many different funds of the city. So this kind of shows that breakdown between the general fund, the enterprise funds, highway, what the impact of a 1% increase per year would be for that bargaining unit. One of the primary areas of concern that we have right now is our self-insurance fund. So we have seen the claims, the medical claims that we've paid, in particular, the dental has come in about on budget, but for medical and prescription drug, those are trending, 5 to 7% above what we budgeted. So this is something that we're keeping our eye on. So it's likely that the budget for the self-insurance fund will be somewhere in the $2 to $3 million over budget range. Then finally, just kind of an overall summary of some of the areas of concern. So the general fund, just based on the higher than anticipated labor costs, trending about $1.8 million over budget. The assessment fund, and this is largely a result of, we had a bad winter last year and our salt purchases were a little bit higher than anticipated. So that was about $1 million of an impact to the assessment fund. The highway fund is just slightly over budget, but has a very small fund balance. So that is something that we are watching. The water fund, and part of this is based on the change that I mentioned with the capital projects and the fact that the loan proceeds, we will have to pay those construction costs directly instead of having them reimbursed from the loan proceeds. So that's causing part of that. Having said that, the water fund balance is something that we're keeping our eye on. And similar to what we did 2 years ago, we may have to advance funds from sewer to water to keep that fund balance positive. Another area of concern is the information technology fund, trending slightly higher than budget. So this is something that we may look, that is reimbursed by all of the city departments on a chargeback basis. So that might be something that we have to look at late in the year, is increasing that chargeback to get their fund balance positive. And then I already mentioned the self-insurance fund.
Can I ask one question?
So, yes, sure. So that pretty much concludes my presentation.
Okay,
Is there any questions? I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you for that, Steve. I lost my page, but anyhow, when we're talking about, there it is, the general fund being over budget, and we're talking about police and fire. If those labor costs are like $2 million over budget, wouldn't losing additional police, increase that $2 million that you're over? And also, because the shortage of police will cause more overtime. So I wanted to ask about that. Also, with the vacancies that we have, wouldn't bringing those people on still make things keep going over budget as opposed to labor?
So in terms of police and fire, we budgeted what we thought we could take on in terms of class size for each one of them. So typically they do their classes in, approximately groups of 25. Police is looking at a class, coming up, later in the year. That'll probably be in November sometime. They're also looking to do lateral hires. So, when we budgeted, just based on where we were, The staffing count was largely based on what they thought they could accommodate in terms of class size. And this, I could say a similar thing about fire. So fire is anticipated to have a class that starts roughly in September, also roughly 25 people.
But are we looking, what about those other vacancies that we talked about, or that was on the slide, like 114 vacancies?
Right.
Not.
That's also factored in. So, so keep in mind that 114 vacancies really is fairly consistent across the year, other than it does move somewhat when we hire police and fire classes. So, there were vacancies, let's say all of the other departments. There were vacancies in the first half of the year, there will be vacancies in the second half of the year. So based on the trend, those vacancies are kind of factored in that, yes, we will be about $5 million under budget with the full-time wages for the other departments.
Okay. Any other questions by committee members or any council members as far as Mr. Fricker's presentation?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, Tina?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm curious about the healthcare costs. Have we just seen more claims, higher claims, or is this
Claims
a
are
trend?
just the growth in claims. So we budgeted about a 5% growth in claims. Through the first half of the year, it's been closer to 10%.
Oh, wow.
So that could go down, maybe we just had a bad 6 months, but based on the trend, those claims have been about 10% growth over last year.
Gotcha, thank you.
Councilwoman Linda Mobian, see your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Fricker, I know some time ago we were asking supervisors and managers to pay closer attention to overtime and managing that. Are we doing better in managing overtime? I'm not thinking so much about the safety forces as I am about non-safety staff, allowing people to flex their hours or do other kinds of things other than, because we used to have people carry over a lot of overtime.
So I would say we are doing better. We're not doing as good as what we were hoping to do when we built the budget. I guess I would answer it like that.
Okay.
Because some places they just put an end to when you accumulate overtime, you have a certain amount of time to use it within. If it's not used, you lose it. Have we got? I mean, that may sound harsh, but it's sometimes you have to put a stop somewhere so that we won't continue to carry over overtime and kind of force managers or people to either use it or lose it? Have we gotten to that point?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would characterize it as use it or lose it. We're looking at, there are situations where you have emergencies and things like that you don't really have any choice but to fill it with overtime. And we've seen that a couple times, with some of the the larger events that we've had on the fire side. Likewise with police, we have a lot of events and things that we are staffing with police overtime. So it's been difficult to cut back that as much, given that we still want to have,
I was thinking about the
security
non-safety forces, places where people may have a little bit more flexibility and not have to fill positions that are empty or whatever.
So, some of it, this also extends to water and sewer and to, our public works divisions, So when we've had, we just had a fairly large snow and ice season, that's also contributing to, a larger amount of overtime, within our public works divisions.
There were a couple line items, I don't know if we got into those in your section or not, where I was looking at some of the information that you uploaded, and I think it was a couple communication areas or somewhere where the they were slightly over, but no, they were underspent. Those dollars then could be moved around to be used in different areas. Is that what the thinking is in those areas?
Yeah, so I guess I would say, as we typically do, and so one other thing I will say is that at this time, we are not seeking to do an appropriation amendment. That is something that will come later in the year as we have
Okay.
a better picture of, of where we are. So typically, we do not initiate those until, well into the fall, and that is certainly our plan for this year. So we are not seeking to amend anything at this point. That's something that will come later in the year. In terms of what we ultimately do, the places where we have underspent will, hopefully to some extent offset the areas where we have overspent.
Okay.
So, that's, the way that finance is looking at this budget is it's kind of an overall. So the funding sources, say for the general fund, are what they are, and they're not really designated for a specific department. We have a number that we're trying to hit for the general fund to keep the general fund balance in a certain place, and based on what we see with each department, we're trying to, in aggregate, keep the general fund in a certain place. So to the extent we have savings in some departments, those are offsetting places where we have overages in others.
Now, you also said that the second half of the year may offset some of this overspent as well. Things may level out in some areas. Did I hear you say something like that?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm following that question.
I thought I heard you say that, we've spent a lot the first half, that the second half of the year may not be.
I think what I was mentioning there was the terminal pay. And that's just something that we see, it's just kind of the trend in what we see with employees that retire. More of them retire in the first half of the year than in the second half of the year. So that's the reason for that. The way I estimated terminal pay was that a third of it is remaining at this point in the year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, let's see, Fran.
Thank you. Just on terminal pay, the 1.7 million, so that is overspend. So can you explain that a little bit more? Because you're saying, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So you're saying that it's typical to pay, 2/3 of it in the first half of the year, but we're still 1.7 million in overspend for that category of terminal for the police.
So one thing I will say is that typically we do not, and that is the case this year, we do not budget for terminal pay. So we do not budget for, when people retire or separate from the city, we do not budget for that. And that is because we typically have offsetting savings from the vacancies in the regular wages. Now, this year, it doesn't quite pan out that way. So the terminal pay, if it comes in where it's projected, will slightly exceed the savings from the regular pay. But typically, those trend pretty close together. And typically, the vacancies from full-time positions and the savings you get from that offsets what the terminal pay is.
Okay. I might have some questions after that about that. If I may ask, sorry, go for it.
Good. Tina?
Thank you. I'm sorry to switch gears. I wanted to go back to the net profits on income tax revenue.
Okay.
You mentioned that it's a timing issue. Can you explain how you know that?
So the way I would explain that is that when we look at some of the larger accounts that, when we compare the net profit revenues this year versus last year, the the places where we have a big drop dropped in the first half of the year. So we're not anticipating a big drop for the remainder of the year in the net profit taxes because the bigger accounts, we've already seen that happen this year.
So there's no extenuating circumstances that are causing that necessarily that you're
No,
saying?
it's, yeah, I mean, net profit tax is something that is very difficult to project, so it's all up to companies. Companies make estimated payments based on what they think their profits might be. So sometimes you end up getting a large payment, sometimes you refund it, sometimes, you know, they have, you know, some type of great quarter, great half of a year, and you get a large payment. So that there's just a wide variety of variation in that.
I gotcha. If I may follow up quickly, with the JED, what's going on with Bath and Copley? Like, do we know?
So I don't know that we have a whole lot of, yeah, so Copley's up a little bit.
Or Coventry, I
Yeah,
meant
yeah,
to say.
Coventry, yeah. So, you know, they have net profit taxes too. I didn't break the JEDs down by net profit and withholding, so that is something that we will look at.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All righty. Mr. Wheeler.
Okay. Let me switch gears here.
Good afternoon, members of the Budget and Finance Committee, Chairman Lombardo, and Council as a whole. We wanted to take the time to really update Council as to where we are with ARPA. Next slide, please. And really, kind of going back and starting back with history and the obligation period as of 12/31/2024. At that time, we had obligated all 145 million of the ARPA funds. And with that, we knew we had kind of 2 years of spend down between 25 and 2026. As we're going to discuss, we are on track to spend 100% of the ARPA funds by the end of this year. And we are currently in the midst of the closeout period, as we will discuss. The fact that we are at 99% shows we are in good shape. And really, some of this information is a combination of reporting from the first quarter ARPA report and the second. And the reason that is we are actually in the midst of an ARPA reporting period right now. The report for the second quarter is due at the end of July here. We are in the midst of finalizing it. And with every ARPA report, there are minor ledger corrections that we have to make, just so, you know, this is 145 million. It's one of the biggest allocations, if not the biggest allocations of funds we received from the federal government ever. And you just have to make sure your books are in parity between what we're reporting to the federal government and what we have internally in Workday. Next slide. So kind of going back and really looking at it, we're still projecting out, and this is from when we met and had the budget presentation back in March of this year, we're really projecting out about 742,000 of spend down per quarter. And the reason that we do it per quarter is we want to make sure we're hitting our targets for December 31st. So really, we have to have everything spent by that point, reported and closed out by January 31st, 2027. So really, what is this difference between the 143 and the remaining 2.2 million? Almost 100% of this is closeout work. It's grant closeout, construction contingency for some of the community centers and pools that we have to pay out some funds for, and outstanding service payments really related to some of the waterfall reallocations that we made as part of the 2024 obligation period. Next slide. We really wanted to also show the spend down. If council remembers, back in 2021 and 2022, there was a lot of questions at the time about when it was going to ramp up and were we going to be on track to spend the full 145 million. This is just a high-level view of how we've spent, really, the funds over the past 4 years, 5 years at this point. Next slide. So really, what does that mean? This slide here really shows the remaining open expenditures that we expect to expend by year end. That's a tongue twister. And I'm happy to please that no project is under 80%. Then really, that last one is related to a City of Akron website payment that we funded with the ARPA funds and obligated probably in 2022. So we've got one payment there. But kind of going from the biggest, the general operating expenses is actually in relation to the Tyler Technologies project and the Odyssey project for the Akron Municipal Courts. This was a project that was reobligated as we could foresee the expenditures and the project closeout within the allowed ARPA time period, and we kind of made the changes at that time. We now have all the bills for the project. We are in the period of where we are doing reconciliation to make sure we are paying what we owe and what was budgeted, and we are working with the courts to get this out the door in the next month. Yeah, one other kind of thing. There's some small things that we are still working through. So you see some of these dollar amounts, like the lead service disconnect program. A lot of ARPA funds went into moving out, removing the last of the lead lines. Much like the other construction projects, there's still some contingency. There's still some cleanup. And then finally, there's a small one for the housing repair program for $218. Small costs around closeout, especially I think this one is in regards to Nazareth. We still have one more invoice to pay. Next slide, please. And then we have a couple of slides really highlighting all the funds that we have spent for the various ARPA projects over the years. Everything from Patterson Park to Reservoir, to the Summit Lake Vision Plan, and really coming down to council-led projects, including the Ring doorbell camera and the council cares program for the restaurants. Can you go to the next slide, please? Really, there is a lot of work that went into managing all 45 of these projects. And then on a final slide, can you go to the next one, please? Really, we want to highlight where we are with the balances. Again, we broke it out into 3 separate categories for council's information. The construction contingencies there in the first part. The closeout really around various grants that were offered through ARPA and just some of the outstanding payments to vendors that we did primarily through the waterfall. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Wheeler? Look at that. When it comes to that grant's closing out, I was looking at that. Grant's closing out. Can you go back to that?
Can you just, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, there it is. So that means you have that much left to pay out, or?
Yeah, these are all kind of in the same boat across the board. Think of the grant closeout with both like housing repair or VIP, like the violence intervention programming. There are still conditions in some of the contracts that trigger actual payments, and so we want to meet those. Similarly with the construction and contingency payments, we want to make sure that the projects that we paid for, these are federal tax dollars that we are responsible for. We want to make sure that we're getting the best out of the venues, whether it's Lock 3, whether it's Reservoir, or whether, Reservoir just opened the pool as well. We want the best, so.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Looks like Ms. Stomach is up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
Good afternoon, committee chair, committee members, council members. Following Mr. Fricker and Mr. Wheeler regarding capital updates to the budget, we're going to be focusing on the capital budget today. Before you, we submitted the budget that was passed on February 9th. The exact budget that you have, we just highlighted some notes on each of the projects. And what I wanted to do today is, I don't want to go through 171 projects. I was going to focus on a couple of items from each category. And then as we go through them, if you have questions, we can stop and discuss them in greater detail.
Sounds good.
Starting on page number 9, I just wanted to touch on the Home Avenue project. That project has been approved by Ohio Public Works Commission. Construction is going to begin in the 3rd quarter of 2026, and that should be completed sometime in 2027. On page 10, item number 5, the North Main Street Complete Street Project. Council approved this in April of 2025. Construction is approximately 50% complete. and I drive by that every single day, so I am noting the progress. And that too is scheduled to be completed in 2027. Another project of interest is on page 11, number 15, traffic calming. To date, we have spent $242,000. We have installed 13 speed tables on 8 streets, and 1 raised crosswalk is under consideration. And we are also in the process of installing solar sign installations showing where the speed limits are. On page 11, continuing on page 11, on Wedling Drive, we've spent approximately $192,000. I believe construction is going to begin today and will be completed sometime in 2027. November? Okay.
The contract's up in November.
Okay.
We don't want to work on it.
Page 12, the number 17, the annual resurfacing program. We have completed 107 streets to date. That's totaling about 24.48 miles. Work is ongoing. We're about 60% complete. And weather permitting, we should be done by the end of September, early October. We are working with 2 contractors this year. And as of a couple of weeks ago, we've spent about $836,000. Obviously, we have not billed 100%, but it is moving forward. Concrete street repair program, this is another one that is of concern. We are in design phases for the concrete street program. We are going to be focusing on Ward 10 this year, but also looking at some streets on Ward 6 and Ward 1 and 2. Construction should start in August of 2026 and completed in June 2027. The city sidewalk program, which is number 22 on page 12. Construction will begin in August of 2026. We will address approximately 151 streets in the 2026 program. That should get us caught up through the 25 requests. And I believe as of today, we have 87 requests for funding for 2027. On page 13, Akron Parks Challenge. So we are currently looking at completing work for the 2024 awardees. So that is for Prentice Park and Sherbondi Park. We are in the design phases of 2025 for Waters Park and Corona Park. And the 26th park that was selected was in Hines Hillcrest. So we are going to start conversations with residents, what they'd like to see take place there, and looking at design in 27. Page 14, I'd like to touch on community centers and miscellaneous parks. So to date, for community centers, we've committed about 80% of the funds. Work was done at Bald Street, looking at the pool and spa, fitness equipment, and ceiling repairs. At the Northwest Community Center, we did some tot lot renovations. At Firestone Park and Kenmore Senior Center, we did some restroom upgrades. And at the Summit Lake Community Center, work was done on the gymnasium and playground equipments. So I said 80% of the funds have been committed. 250,000 of the funds have been spent out. For miscellaneous parks, we've spent about $249,000. We've committed 85% of those funds. Work has been completed at Atwood Galena, Hines Hillcrest, and Higher Park. Concrete work there. Playground equipment upgrades at Canyon Trail and Gail Crosby Park. Restroom upgrades at the Prentice Park. And playground equipment and basketball court repairs at Sudeth Park. Then moving on to page 16, item number 48, Canal Park Stadium improvements. I believe that came to council today, legislation for roof replacements at the Canal Park baseball. So work will be, construction will begin in fall of 2026, once baseball season has ended. On page 17, item number 61, the Stubbs Building improvements. We have 3 different projects going on there. The elevator construction, the project has been awarded. They will decommission car 3 in fall of 2026, and then work will start on that. And then also looking at modernizing elevators 1, 2, and 4 sometime in the winter of 26 or early 27. The hydronic risers, not sure what that means, but design in the summer or fall of 2026, and construction will be in 26 and 27. And then finally for Stubbs, we've talked about extensively about renovating that building. The consultant has been selected. They're looking at design work in fall, winter of 26 and possibly into early 27. So we're looking at construction sometime in 26, possibly 27 for that project. Equipment replacement on page 18. So for police, that's number 65. They have ordered 6 marked cruisers, 1 negotiator vehicle, and that will be working on delivery for that sometime in fall of 26. And then 2 unmarked units have been delivered and are in service. For fire, number 66, they have purchased 3 ambulances, and they are also looking at legislation was approved to purchase about 4 fleet vehicles. For streets, number 67, they have purchased a grapple truck for parks. They've purchased a new vacuum system for the LEAF program. They've ordered 6 5-ton plow trucks, and they've also ordered a cement truck to help with the work that they do on a daily basis. Just in general, fire gear replacement, they've replaced, this is a huge one. Traditionally, each of our firefighters had 2 sets of gear, 1 set of gear. We've been able to upgrade that to 2 sets. This year, they've replaced 25 helmets, and they're also evaluating the gear manufacturing programs to see which is the best equipment or structural gear that they can purchase for the firefighters. Moving on to, we're going to skip to page 22. Looking at housing and community development, line item number, 21, line item 80 for affordable housing development. So, that's number 92. We've completed work at 65 Nickel, which brought in 45 new affordable rental units in this community. And Wintergreen Ledges up off of Romig Road is in the process of completing their project. That is going to be 120 new affordable housing units, and I believe 20 of those are designated for folks that are homeless or are about to be homeless. And then finally, on page 23, line item 109, the former demolition of the former Firestone headquarters. We are still having conversations with the Ohio Historic Preservation Office of how to handle the front end of the building, but demolition has begun on the back bays of that building, and that is moving forward. Finally, for the Great Streets program, we separated that into different funding sources. We've issued $120,000 for a micro enterprise grants. That's up to $5,000 for small purchase equipment and operating costs. And then we've also, looking at the facade program, we have spent about $180,000 in funding for that. And then finally, for sewer, number 123, the north side and Sumter Tunnel, construction, it's a huge project. Construction is ongoing on that, and that should be completed sometime in 2027. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to touch on one item on 151, the lead service line program. As many of you are aware, the city has completed its lead service line replacement program. In November of 2025, we have moved on. We are now focusing on replacement of the galvanized house lines on private property. So for the 2025 program, that's about 27% complete. And then for the 2026 program, those are going out to bid in July of 2026, and we'll start work on those once the contract has been awarded. And with that, if you have any questions.
Wow, thank you. Colgan Falls Avenue, I know that was on the first slide. I didn't want to interrupt your flow there. You just began. So that seems to be done and not done. I mean, it seemed like there was a grand plan for striping and like it's so wonky, that road, as you know.
So engineering is still looking at design and what that will look like, and they're looking at construction sometime in early spring of 2027.
Okay, now it's 27, okay. There was some temporary striping down, but I think some businesses are gonna, have official parking spaces in front and some are not. So that's what I was looking for at the...
we can reach out into engineering and get more information for you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Questions from any council members, committee members? I don't see any. I do see Councilman Wilson.
Thank you. I have two quick ones, if that's okay.
Sure.
One's operating, one's capital-ish. The capital-ish one is, I know, the mayor committed to $250K extra to support unhoused shelter programming. So I don't know if there's been any updates on that or if we can entice conversation sometime soon.
We are still looking at that. We will be meeting with the Continuum of Care to have some conversations with them and see what direction go in. I'm hoping to have something in the next couple of 6 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I highlighted, I sent a list of things that I got from some of the people at the round table the other day, maybe about a month ago, highlighting the most desperate needs, specifically with the overnight shelter during the winter, not having staffing.
Yes.
Thank you. My second one was, and this is, somewhere in the range of operating, but I don't know if we're going to go over staffing specific stuff, but this is, where is the iPads and the digital software update regarding the housing department? Have we spent money regarding that? Are we pushing forward with that?
So I believe that they have the contract with Woolpert that is looking at the upgrade for the CityWorks software. I think that's still kind of a work in progress. I'll get more of an update for you on that. I think it's not in place yet, but I know that they have the consultant in place to look at that. But they also had to do, at the same time, they had to do a full upgrade and convert the CityWorks software to a new web-based version. And I think that has delayed things a little bit because they had to do that upgrade.
Yeah, like Mr. Fricker said, we'll have to get back to you because there is some urgency that we need to get this upgrade in place. It's taking it from traditional software to a web-based platform.
And it's something that all cities that use CityWorks are struggling with. It was kind of a mandatory update that the software vendor kind of mandated for all of their clients to do. And so it is something that we are incurring a cost to do that, and we had to do it to stay on that version or to stay on that software.
I don't mean to be sharp. I think I keep checking in because I remember we've been talking about it for many years when I used to sit and watch in meetings, right? And I think especially there's been so many housing issues on my own plate over the last couple of months, and dealing with paper copies is, in my way, unacceptable. So I really, anything that we can do to help to spur that along, I imagine there would be a lot of support. So thank you.
Thank you. The Britton Road Reservoir Replacement Project, how's that coming along?
That the original has been just demolished, so they're looking at design and construction. And I don't.
It's going on now. I just didn't know how long is that supposed to take?
I can check on that one and get back to you.
I was just traveling through there last night, actually, and they have the whole block now is shut down. Okay. Wow. All right. Thank you very much. Councilwoman Tina Boyes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question on the snow and ice. I know that was up. I vaguely remember in committee hearing that we try to stay ahead of our salt because of some of the shortages we've had in the past. Is that what that is attributable to, or is it something else?
So it's attributable to the fact that, yes, we used when we enter into our contract with there's like a consortium, a CUE, that we purchase salt through, and we have kind of a minimum that we have to buy, and then we have a maximum that we have to buy. And I do believe that we bought the maximum. The other thing they're doing is we are getting new salt domes put in place. So I actually talked to John Malish about this, because that was one of my questions, is where did we end the year in terms of how much salt we had on hand, and what is it going to look like going forward this fall? So it's my understanding that we will be able to store more salt, now than we previously could, because we have the new salt domes. So they will start getting shipments this fall. So I guess the answer is we anticipate having a full supply of salt for this winter.
Gotcha. But the ordering ahead isn't the reason that we're over budget for salt.
It's because we use all of our salt, correct? I mean,
Oh, boy.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, I don't see any more questions, so.
One more, sorry.
Oh, I didn't see.
So sorry, it'll be quick. You mentioned cannabis revenues are under budget by 10%.
Correct.
Can you walk us through what that figure is and what the logistics are of why that is not coming in?
So when we got the initial distribution, what I did was I looked at like the monthly breakdown of what that amount was. And I remember the distribution that we got, I can't remember if it was January and February, covered all of last year as well. So we ended up getting, roughly, I think it was close to $900,000 at a time that covered the previous year. So kind of prorating that forward and knowing that we would have additional potential facilities coming online within the city, I also included a little bit of an increase in what I thought the monthly amounts would be, and that has not really materialized. So I originally budgeted $1,750,000. It's looking like it's going to be somewhere between 1.5 and 1.6 million.
If I may, so is the problem the state not giving us the money, or
No.
businesses not paying
it's
the
just,
state?
No, it's not a problem, it's just I overestimated how much we would
Understood.
get. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time and effort putting that all together for us. Appreciate it. And if no other, any questions, meeting is adjourned.
That is our final committee meeting of the day. Council will meet in regular session at 6:30.